Hi guys, welcome to my first live stream. We're talking about the influence manga and comics have on each other. We're going to start some questions. Introduce everyone, sorry. We've got Larry King, as usual, the main man.
I don't know about me, man. That's Lobo. I don't have the stash. I don't have the hook. I don't have the stash. And my skin, I'm white, but I'm not that white. And I'm not a Zarnian.
And a new guy who I've just met, Daniel. He's looking pretty suave in his picture. I'm sure that's him and not just some random.
It's true. Sure it's not a Google. It's not a Getty image.
With this watermark up there.
Apparently, I just found this out from my Wikipedia for this. Apparently, the first manga or comic was wood block printed scrolls from the 12th century. And the apparently first Proto-American comic was by J.W. Dillingham Company, who published The Yellow Kid in McFlidden's Flat. A lot of people think that manga or the printed scrolls was the first comic, and some people think that The Yellow Kid from McFladden's Flat was the first comic. What do you think, guys? Which one was the first comic?
I say wooden block because wooden block, even though, you think, wood, that doesn't count. Well, what is paper? Paper is just pulped wood and, in that form. And that right there, that's the first sequential story on wood. It doesn't matter what surface. You could be on a cave wall. It could be on, leather. It could be on papyrus. It doesn't matter as long as it's a sequential story. And people think, it's got to be a comic book. It's got to be stapled, this and that. Go back and look at the old Sunday comic strips like Prince Valiant, the Rare Bit Fiends by Winsor McKay, as well as Nemo. And these are one-page comic sheets, really detailed. And if that can count as a comic, then a wood block can count as a comic. It doesn't matter what tools, what format, as long as it's a sequential story, that's all that matters. So to me, that's my opinion.
Daniel?
Yep, and I agree with Larry. And that's I've always known that to be the first, historically, the wood block one. And look at comics now; they're on digital, so it doesn't have to be paper. We still consider them comics as well. So the format of like paper doesn't really matter. So I concur with Larry.
I have to concur too. That question kind of everybody agreed on that one. So we'll move to the next question. Well, I don't know. You can look at it like this: the sequential art is a major feature of a comic book. I actually haven't seen these woodblock printing comics. I have seen a little bit of the Kid McFlaggen thing, and that's some sequential art form. So it depends on what your definition of the word is, I guess. I'm using the word comic to represent American comics, and manga is manga, just to make life easier. I guess it really depends on the definition of the word, of how you see it. But anyway, we'll move on to the next one. What's your favorite manga artist in America? Now, what I'm talking about is like artists who have kind of got influenced to the point where they kind of look like manga style and stuff like that, like Joe Madureira, Ed, how do you say his name? Ed McGuinness. McGuinness. Chris Bocello, he went all manga-y style at one point, didn't he?
Well, I'll let Daniel take this one first. I'm on alternating.
Well, my favorite is Joe Mad. He was the most popular one. He changed. His style was like for the most like a radical departure from like the Jim Lee image era, where it was basically Jim Lee was the guy, and then it was basically people who drew like the image guys for a while. Try to keep that house style standard. And then his was kind of, when he started out, he was kind of like a Arthur Adams-y kind of, like Arthur Adams mixed in with his own cartoony style. Like his style wasn't fully formed yet. And then like in a matter of months, he just switched over and his stuff started to look like anime, like those Fatal Fury cartoons or something.
Yeah, it did, didn't he? Like it happened overnight, because I collected his Age of Apocalypse, and it wasn't so manga-y. But as it ended, and he started on a regular X-Men or Uncanny X-Men, I can't quite remember. He just went full on anime, didn't he? Or sorry, manga. but they kind of follow more of an anime style than a manga style. If that's something I've noticed. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, definitely. No, I agree. Yeah, and I can imagine he was like pausing it. I mean, that was days of VCR, so he was probably pausing these tapes and
tracing
on
over.
the TV screen on the tube. I did that too. I'm not gonna lie. I used to do that. You can't do that on LCD screen. We don't have to do that no more. You just go to Google Image search, copy paste, drop it in, and there you go.
Exactly.
Well, nowadays there's a lot of manga inspired artists. I mean, the guy who does Black Hops, Tim, what's his name again?
Oh, Tim Lim.
Yeah, Tim Lim. My Hero Mangadamia is very well. We know the influence because it was supposed to be his take on My Hero Academia and all that. So it definitely had to be manga style. But Udon's made their bread and butter from getting artists who kind of get influenced by. Well, what's his name, man? Bendis? Not Bendis. Bengus, the guy who does the Street Fighter style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of that's Udon's bread and butter is the Street Fighter comics and people who can draw similar to that with the big muscles and the kind of what do you call it? Well, you know what I mean. Anyway, keep going. Larry?
Well, what's funny is before I mention mine, if you haven't read or checked out Daniel's work, his stuff is extremely manga inspired, anime manga inspired. He has a comic called Red, Cyberpunk Fairy Tales. The first volume's out. You pick it up off his website via PayPal. So I know you buy comics, so you look on his Red. Let me make sure it's correct. I think
it's really good.
redcomicbook.com. I don't mind shilling for my friend. Redcomicbook.com, and you're very welcome. And you can get it via PayPal. I've been meaning to get around to it. I've been working on the comic, and I'm like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I got to read this because I told you I'd read it. But I think you love it. If you like manga inspired work, you'll love it. Beautiful, beautiful comic.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. My choice.
It's very nice.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared for the backlash. Rob Liefeld.
That's interesting. Yeah, he has had a lot of influence from, especially Masamune and Shiro.
Kitsuhiro Otomo with Akira. I mean, you look at Cable and with the cybernetic arm and all this and that, psychic powers, and if you say, "Oh, I don't see Akira in that," you're out of your mind. But
the guy on, sorry, keep going.
Oh no, that was just like Liefeld. I have to give it to him. I can't help it. But...
Yeah.
Okay, definitely.
He had a video, and I'm still trying to find a video on YouTube where he admits that he had a manga influence. He says, "Oh, these are my secret weapons, and I used to buy all these mangas and
it's a shame that you couldn't take anatomy from those guys."
You look at this, but honestly, you look at there was a comic called An America Extra. And it was a magazine. I'm trying to look for it right now. It is okay. An America Extra. I got Volume 5, Number 4. And
British ones, isn't it?
No, these are. This was American magazine. Like they would. An America was like focused on that, but this is the extra. This is like the comics, the manga. The stories featured in this are Chicago by Yumi Tamura, Marionette Generation by Haruhiko Mikomoto, Revolutionary Girl Utina, and like Steam Detectives and Video Girl I. If you look at Liefeld's work, you combine everything from Katsuhiro Otomo, you combine Masamune Shiro, and even some of that like Revolutionary Girl Utina, where the limbs are way too long, everything's over exaggerated, it looks weird and funky. You combine all that from an American perspective, you'll get Rob Liefeld.
I used to collect that. I collect so much of that.
So and I remember like seeing that style because my first comic was a Batman comic drawn by Cam Kennedy, and he's a British artist. He worked for 2000 AD, and to go like very straightforward art, not like it wasn't standard American stuff. It was more stylized than American, but still, it was Western, not this Eastern and like heavily Eastern influenced stuff. And you look at like X-Force #1, everything's exaggerated and over the top, like, whoa, what's going on here kind of thing. It's like the exact opposite of anime manga stuff, especially manga with Rob Liefeld's eyes, like Manga's like always giant eyes, and his eyes are just like slits. They're which is kind of appropriate when you think about it.
I'm sure I read an issue where Jim Lee got inspired by Masamune Shirow, especially when it came to guns and stuff. Because when he first started, was it Cable? He used to draw these huge guns.
Oh, you mean well, Jim Lee worked on Alpha Flight. He worked on Uncanny X-Men, and then the X-Men for issues 1 to 11. He didn't really draw Cable. That was a because like that time they kept they kept their characters like, oh, Rob created Cable, so he's over here doing Cable with Louise Simonson and Fabian Caesar and all that, and like keeping it kind of like compartmentalized. But yeah, like there with the guns, like Jim Lee when he was drawing the guns for the Genoshan guards though, on Genosha during like Executioner Song. That's if you look at Executioner Song, let me see if I can find the artwork for it. There is very heavily like there are aircraft, there's vehicles. Let's see. They spelled it so weird. There we go. I think I found it. But yeah, the aircraft, the vehicles, the look overall, everything about it was heavily inspired. No, it wasn't Executioner Song. It was the other one. Extinction Agenda. Yeah, that's the one. There's so many.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because Executioner Song is after Jim Lee left this arc right afterwards. And let's see. So find it first.
Definitely the detail on all the tech and weaponry and stuff.
Yeah, you never saw that before, though, did you? I mean, superheroes were just superheroes. They'd fly around. Or even the X-Men were just basic. They didn't have any tech or anything. And then all of a sudden Jim Lee and co come in and they bring all this tech and over-detailed and extreme scientific stuff. It's weird because it's supposed to be set like in the 90s, but they've got like tech that should be set, I don't know, should be around in the 2500s or something like that.
Okay, I take it back. He did draw Cable. You mind if I share the screen?
Sure. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Let's see. I guess it won't let me. Oh, there we go. I'm sharing now. Okay. Yeah. So just here's this cover right here to X-Men 272, and that's straight up out of Appleseed. That's a Shiro design, and the gun too, and like everything about it. It's just there's no shame. Great action sequence.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, I think you actually shared this thing.
Yeah. Even the speed lines. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably been around a bit longer than that, but yeah.
Yeah, they have taken that out of comics now because apparently that's a taboo to have speed lines in comics.
I miss this. I miss this Jim Lee. I miss this era.
This is peak Jim Lee. Peak. I mean, I think he dropped off after Hush. Like after Hush, he just went because it's like that. This is Jim Lee when he was hungry. This is hungry Jim Lee. But yeah, he's hungry and thirsty. He's very thirsty.
Look at that Psylocke. He's clearly thirsty.
Yeah, well, definitely. So even though that's one thing about his women, like he could draw Asian women fine. White women, I guess, are okay. But like him drawing Storm never looked like a black woman. He never drew Storm like a black woman. She was just drawn like a white woman with like big hair. So it's like you could have colored her differently and called her somebody else, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Well, it's interesting. His style influenced that X-Men Children of the Atom, which in turn influenced a bunch of American manga artists. So there you go. Jim Lee is the Omega.
Same thing with the cartoon.
Yep.
Yeah, same thing with the cartoon. Like they wanted to change that because Marvel's like, no, this guy, you can't use that guy's design. He left us in the lurch. So they fought for it and got the design work. So Rob Liefeld. There you go.
No, that's a really good answer, and you backed yourself up with facts. Good work.
I'm going to say into a corner.
Answer us or else. Okay, so this is more for Daniel, probably a little bit for Larry. What what has been more influential on your art, manga or comics?
Oof, that was I'd say comics in a weird way. I mean, I started with comics. Like I started reading American comics and was influenced by. Originally, I went through different styles. Like now I have like an anime manga-esque style, but I started drawing realistically. And one of my favorite guys was George Perez, just for the attention to detail he had to everything. And but over time, like when the manga anime boom came into America around the late 80s, early 90s, that's when I was like, still a kid, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the stuff. But I couldn't transition like the style really. Like it was hard because there wasn't enough of it for me to buy, but just enough of it for me to get interested in. But once more American artists started to do it, which is like, guys like Alvin Lee and Joe Mad and, Carlos Pacheco and Salvador LaRocca and stuff like that, then I could try and pivot, you know what I mean? So but I still read a lot of manga too. Like I like all kind of manga, like, my favorite Blame is good and Appleseed, but like, I kind of needed the Americans to sort of, in a weird way, help me understand how to translate it.
I think it's good to have an influence from both sides. I mean, I'm even looking at Spanish comics and all that. You look at some of the Spanish stuff. Some of it's just like the line work is. It's like these guys freaking, I don't know, geniuses or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've seen. Maybe that's probably why they need to hire these guys. They probably need the gigs, and they draw like guys like Roger Cruz and Ed Benes and stuff. They kind of have a manga influenced flavor too.
There's a lot of European style, I think, because manga got into Europe a lot sooner than America and Australia, and so their influence, like Studio Ghibli, was a huge influence on French artists. Things like Porco Rosso and Laputa and all that, and then you see French animated movies that are coming out. They have that kind of look and style. So anyway, what about you, Larry?
Well, actually, I'd have to say comics as well because, like I said, my first comic was Cam Kennedy's Batman. It was a part 2 of 2, and the first comic I bought was a X-Men X-Men Adventure Season 3, number 1, the cover with Lady Deathstrike on the cover, where you see her holding Gambit. Wolverine's on the ground, and like you see massive cleavage. There's like no shame. They just big, like deep cleavage down to her like navel, and there's like this basketball sequences and stuff. But as the years went on, Joe Mad, big influence, Ed McGuinness, and then when I started getting those, like, because my comic shop at the time was like 2005, 2006, they had a bunch of old, like, there was a upstart kind of like rivaled at the time when Shonen Jump was going on here. When Shonen Jump launched, other people said, well, we can do it too. So there was a Raigin Comics, Raigin, I believe it was called. But they put out City Hunter, and they put out Fist of the Blue Sky, which is it's the prequel to Fist of the North Star. It's like it's set 1930s. It's pre-apocalypse and all that. But they also had those Animerica extras, and just here, $1. Sometimes they just give away for free. Just take them off our hands, or taking up space, because these collections, these stories are magazine size. They're thick, 100 pages plus. Taking up a lot of room at the comic shop, and nobody cares about it. But I got introduced to Masakazu Katsura, who did Video Girl I. He also I
love that.
It's a romance. But the art is so beautiful, and I love the way he drew like women. His women are very squishy in a good way, and it's like I would look it up. I would like share. I'm not going to do that because God knows there's a lot of his women were. It's complicated. But if you know his art, you know what I'm talking about. Well, no, it's just the way it's. I don't want to. Taint your stream, as it were. But yeah, it's like this, they're very beautiful women, romantic comics and stuff. And that right there, it wasn't too exaggerated. they were. It reminded me of like his art reminded me of something from the 80s, kind of sleazy, Paul Verhoeven like in a way, and it worked. And there's something about that, and that kind of influenced me. And I was also a big fan of Katsuhiro Otomo. But one of the books I got into around the same time, and I kind of really got into, was Lone Wolf and Cub, because there was because the Dark Horse was putting out the reprints, and they're about
a couple of those actually. Actually, just before I'll let you continue, I just want to tell you, here's a factoid. Masazuki Kasura, who's behind Video Girl Aya, he actually had an accident. He had to relearn to draw with his other hand, and his artwork improved 20 times. You go look at his early stuff. He damaged his hand. He had to relearn because he was in hospital for a long time. He had to relearn while he was in hospital how to draw, and his stuff is, as you see it now, as you say, extremely nice and very squishy, as you like to say. Anyway, continue.
Wow.
Well, those Lone Wolf and Cub collections, like 5 inches by 4 inches, really tiny, but like each story is like 60 pages, and most of them are very silent. Like that's a great thing. Like you could have picked up the original Japanese and understood what was going on in the story, from just the visual storytelling alone. And that right there that's one thing about like those comics, the visual storytelling. But we'll get to that. Well, down the line.
My mum, I gave my mum, was it One Punch Man, and she flew through it. She doesn't really have that much in it. She really liked it. She reads a lot of my comics actually. She's gone through all of Bone. She reads a lot of Superman, Batman, Green Lantern. I picked up that latest James Bond, Vargas. She read that. Yeah, I just give her stuff and she'll read it. She read Archie and Batman, which I picked up, which I thought was a lot of fun. I don't care what anybody says. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Batman 60s series. Like back then, I hated it, but nowadays I go like, you know what? I like this. It's charming. It's a little campy, but you can see everybody's having a bit of fun in it. So, anyway, next.
I think you skipped a question. Actually,
I'm kind of doing them out of order.
Oh yeah. But,
okay, well, what's your first manga? What was it? I want to start with this one because this is very close to my heart. Because the very first manga I bought was also the very first time I went to a comic shop. Now, I used to live in a small town called Kalgoorlie, where we didn't have comic stores. We had news agencies, and that's where you'd pick up your comic books. And once in a while, because I had medical condition when I was younger, I would come into Perth and my dad would buy me a Superman comic or a Batman comic. But this was the first time I went into a comic shop, Quality Comics, which I think has moved or is not there no more. Anyway, the first thing I got was Rumik Takahashi's Run Mahar. And from then on, she's my first manga artist. She'd probably be my last. I love all the stuff she does. She's hilarious. She has kind of a slapstick, romantic style. Her artwork is amazing. It goes from really simple to this insane detail. She has an amazing flow. Her fight sequences in Ramahaf, which because it's a kung fu cross-dressing, gender swapping thing, that's hilarious. She has amazing action. Her action is amazing. I've got her Urusei Yashura. I don't think I said that right. I've got her Manshin Ukuyuku. I love all of her stuff. And that was the very first graphic novel through Viz Comics of Ran Mahar. Okay. Who's next?
Mine was actually their Epic Comics, which is the imprint of Marvel. It reproduced a lot of stuff like in the 80s. They didn't do everything, but they did a lot. And two of the books that they got, and I picked books. So the first one I read, and the reason I read it because I had a Frank Miller cover first, was A Lone Wolf and Cub, because they were about 40 pages. But I was reading the one later and actually read more because the 40 pages never cover much or nothing. But it was Lone Wolf and Cub followed by Akira, and this is the American reprint versions of both, where they flipped it and everything. So it doesn't look as good.
West did that too. A lot of manga artists don't like when the West did that. They actually thought it was quite insulting.
Well, also because the artwork doesn't look as good because if you're drawing, you know, there's people say, "Oh, you just flip it in the mirror." I'm like, who got time for that? Especially when you're doing, you know, like
He's
20
got
pages.
mirrors for that.
Exactly, and you know, 20 pages a week or more. You got to do more per week and everything like that. Oh, I got time to stop and like, no, screw it. It looks fine. He's like, well, it doesn't look that great when you mirror it. I'm like, who does that? Really? But it's a Little Cub followed by Akira.
So mine was it's a manga called Sanctuary by it was written by this guy, is it Sho Funamura, and illustrated by a guy named Ikigami. I forget the first name, but it's a story about two friends, and one is like they're buddies, but then one decides to go into a life of crime, and another goes into politics. So it's kind of like a
monster. Is that it?
Sanctuary.
No. Sanctuary. Sorry. Keep going.
So the art is pretty realistic. It's reminiscent of like Crying Freeman or like City Hunter, but it's pretty adult, like pretty raw and action packed, and kind of like it's a crime story. I was back in the day. I mean, I was a young kid. I don't know when that came out. Maybe I was like 13 or 14 or something. But like, I was really into manga, and all the stuff that was coming in was from like Manga Video. So it was like a lot of the Kawajiri stuff, like Ninja Scroll and
Ninja Scroll, Lord Gemma.
So I kind of wanted artwork that looked like that, like as an artist, like kind of like realistic looking instead of like the cutesy stuff, because that's what it's all about in America. We were like rebelling against Disney, you know. Yeah. And so I wanted to read something pretty wild. So Sanctuary.
My manga phase was I hated anything American comics. I only read manga. That was
really?
When I got into manga. I was like, what is this crap? I don't want to look at this. I'd rather read my manga. Oh my goddess, you're under arrest. Never can say it. The freaking worst one that came out in Australia was this freaking psychotic one with lots of rape and sex and stuff.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, I think I'd pass on that one. Like, I think one of the worst ones I read was I was the person that recommended it to me. I should have known better. Tried to kill her father because little inkling demons told her to kill her father, and she'd been committed to a mental institution a couple of times. And yeah, I know some weird people, but recommended MPD Psycho. And if you've never read it, it's about a guy. Basically, it's think of Seven meets like Silence of the Lambs, and one of the bad guy sends the cops a delivery, and it's a cooler, and inside the cooler is a woman missing her arms and legs and like hooked up to a life support.
I think I've seen that.
And the same guy who did this had kidnapped a bunch of women, has them tied up in like it looks like a meat locker, and the tops of their skulls are cut off, and you have brain exposed, and he's planted flowers in their brains. And then once they grow to a certain point, he'll pull the flowers, and because their roots have grown into the women's brains, they're like drooling. They're still alive, barely. And he pulls the flowers, so it pulls their brains with him. Yeah, I should have known better.
But Japanese horror is just on a whole different level, eh?
Yeah, it's like Steve Niles' American horror. I'm like, dude, it's kiddie games, man. That's the night on Steve Niles' horror, like 30 Days of Night and everything he's done is Night on Bald Mountain. What the Japanese do is you have you can't even compare. It's like the Hell Dimension from Event Horizon, like they're looking their own eyes out. It's that level of nightmare.
Well, there's a Japanese artist, Junjo Ito, if you haven't come across his stuff.
Ito, yeah. Yeah.
Stuff. There's one with where all the fish have come on land and they've got legs and stuff, and it's like apparently the Japanese government created a kind of a toxin that can kill people. The only problem is it kills so quickly that it's useless. So what they do is they kind of like create something to carry the dead person, like a little walking thing, to carry people into populated areas, and the ship sinks during the war, and then all the dead fish attach to these little walkie things and start coming out of the sea and start attacking. But it's the you thought sharks on land was just in your brain. You read this, and it's like. And he's also got like a really he's beyond Lovecraftian. He's got more of a twisted kind of human deformity thing going. Like there's one where there's a rock formation, and it's like a shape of a human, and people go in it and they come out the other end all twisted up and lanky and stuff. His shit will leave you freaking nightmares, I'm telling you. I also highly recommend Parasite, which is about these monsters that take over people's brains and then eat them. You got to read that. That's really good. They did an anime of it, but I don't think it's animated as good as the manga. It rarely is. I mean, there's the odd time that it is, but yeah. So I'll give you guys a chance. You got any questions?
Oh, you mean
did you answer the question of who was your favorite American manga person?
Oh, me. Oh, yeah. Joe Madureira. It's not. You know what? Something I want to say. I love his stuff, and not just that, because he also has amazing character designs. I saw some art designs for his battle chasers, and man, some of his monster stuff, some of his like creatures and stuff are freaking insane. Now, his panel work, I think he should keep working on his actual panel work, because sometimes he kind of takes a big scene and shrinks it for no apparent reason. Something I saw in Battle Chasers. But his character designs and his monster designs are freaking amazing. And I always get super inspired whenever I see him. And probably, yeah, just Joe Mad. Pretty obvious answer, really.
Yeah.
Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice at all.
Yeah.
Too bad he hasn't finished Battle Chasers. It's been 20 years.
They did a game. They did a game.
Oh, he did the game. The hell with the game. I want the comic to finish. Then he can work on the game. It's like, dude, finish the fight, man. Finish the fight. It's like if Katsuro Tomo said, "Nah, I'll wait 20 years to finish Akira," but people would have come after him. And nobody cared about Battle Chasers that much. But so we got the next question, right? Was it?
Oh, you guys got any questions, like different questions?
Oh no, I can't really think of nothing off the top of my head. I mean,
okay, well, sorry, okay.
I'm thinking about how was this show open? How coloring changed comics too, like anime coloring and just trying to look more like a cartoon. Like I remember Pat Lee came out. That was going to be another guy. Not so much for his drawing, but for he brought the comic coloring. Just with
everything like it felt like it was like there was a glow to it. Like everything had like
it looked like it was animated, like an anime movie. They had that kind of anime movie like Ghost in the Shell and Akira and that. Yeah, I remember his stuff. Is he still doing comics? What's he doing nowadays?
I don't think so. I think he's just he's doing the game design work in Singapore or something. And I don't think he's in his country anymore after Dreamwave.
I think that was Canadian, though. I'm not mistaken. I think he was that was Canadian based. So
he was, but I think he moved overseas. I can't
probably to escape. There's Dreamwave. Dreamwave was an interesting. It was an interesting experiment. It's like Pat Lee and his crew, and they were like it's like pre-Udon and everything. And so they're doing Transformers. They did that Transformers G.I. Joe comic. With Jay Lee doing the artwork, which is weird because it's everything looked all muddy and everything was too dark. But that Devil May Cry comic was actually really good. It had like a charcoal design art. It reminded me of Lone Wolf and Cub a little bit. It's like if you mix Lone Wolf and Cub with like if Joe Mad had like a Lone Wolf and Cub style, and he drew in charcoal. That's what it looked like. It never got finished because Dreamwave went under, and that'll never get collected, never get finished. So shame.
That. Actually, we didn't even mention Jason Campbell.
Oh, J. Scott Campbell? Oh, yeah.
Jason Scott Campbell. That guy who does that Empowered now. We didn't even mention him.
Oh, Adam Warren.
Adam Warren.
I have a problem with his style. It is too penciled. It's like, I know it's penciled like Daniel, that's what you do, right? You still do, you pencil it, but you scan it in and like darken it, right? Like with like burn tool, or just keep it the way it's scanned in as.
Oh no, I darken it. I scan it in as pencil, and then I kind of darken the pencil so it looks more like ink.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you keep keep your pencils pretty tight. From like, I've seen your sketching videos when you're doing your art, and you keep your pencils pretty tight. Like, you don't have to erase that much.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too rough.
Yeah, Adam Warren's, his stuff is just, it's like too messy. It's like it's like, dude, pay for an inker. I guarantee somebody will gladly ink your work, and everybody has those weird faces. I don't like the faces in their noses. Like, oh wow, this woman, she's poking her butt out. Every woman has the same face. It's just
same face. He's got same face going.
I try not to do that.
Those lips.
These ugly lips, like they're like inflated.
Let's have something for pouty lips or something, because
that's the thing. When I do like my artwork, I don't try to mess around with the face too much. Like, I'm gonna vet my own version of a manga face. I don't do that.
I'm terrible at faces. My faces result in 2 lines and another line that's the mouth. That's my face. I'm just terrible.
I do like him though. I do like Adam Warren's like speed lines, panel work.
Yeah, I'll agree. The panel work and like the energy in the piece is great, but like look at the artwork. Look at yeah.
I'll throw some up in the thing if you can see it.
Oh yeah, it's here. I see it.
Yeah. So
those faces. I never liked when you could see somebody's eyes, like the hair is covering their face, and like you see like the eyes through the hair. That always bothered me.
Yeah.
Michael Turner did that too. Michael Turner's another artist, had a lot of manga influences and stuff, and people don't talk about that much. But he had a lot of manga influence, and I hated when he would draw like, you see a woman's eyebrows or eyes through the through all that. It just didn't work for me at all.
I didn't mind it as much. I think if you have the anime style, I don't mind it. But I think with somebody like Michael Turner, I would mind it for some reason. I don't know. Like, I got to go all in or all out, Like,
either like Joe Mad, or don't pull a like Mark Silvestri with the anime style. It just doesn't. Right. Yeah, it doesn't click.
Okay, so we'll get into the heavy stuff now. What lessons do you think comics can take from the manga industry and vice versa? I say lock all artists in rooms until they're done. Straight up. That's what they do in freaking Japan. And look what we got. We got My Hero Academia. We got Dragon Ball Z. We've got some of the best art in the world. So lock them in the room you go.
What about food? Can you feed them?
Give them some food, of course,
But not too sluggish, right? Like no KFC or anything.
No,
no turkey, no bird of any kind.
Just lock them in a room and say, you ain't coming out until you're done. See JJ Romero? He gets 2 comics done a freaking month. You can do that too. You're not coming out until it's done. But I guess it's all about culture, more than anything.
I mean, they do have assistants too, right? Like, I mean, they have...
Yeah, they have assistants. Yes, they do. So,
Top Cow had assistants too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, back in the day, like in the mid-90s.
Making the money, I guess.
But here's the thing: it isn't just culture. You look at this. Like, look at back in the day when you had people like Kirby and John Romita Sr. and you had Sal Buscema, John Buscema. You had all these artists, DC, Marvel, everywhere. They were pumping out. Like Kirby, he was a, he was, exception to the rule. But the dude was doing. When he was doing the New God stuff at DC. Like after he left Marvel. So you're talking 1970. He was 53 years old at the time. 53 years old, pumping out 60 pages plus a month. Editing, writing, penciling. He wasn't inking. That was Mike Royer. But he was doing 60 pages plus a month. and take care of everything. Now, there are some manga artists, they can't even, they do, what, 20 pages a week for a weekly comic.
Daily, oh, no, you're right. It's weekly.
Yeah, daily. Jesus. No, not 20 pages daily. What the? No. But they have assistants and a lot of that stuff. But you look at the density of content compared from a Jack Kirby Fourth World comic. Let's say The New Gods, #1. Compare that to the first chapter of Dragon Ball Z. Not Dragon Ball, but let's say Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is a much more dense story than Dragon Ball Z. The latter, which is Dragon Ball, just latter episodes. So you compare the two, there's a lot of decompression in Dragon Ball, where it's a lot of, scenic vistas and, like maybe 4 panels a page. Kirby would do 4 panels, but a lot of stuff was happening in those 4 panels. Mm-hmm. And the size differences too. I mean, you've got bigger size. Like Kirby was drawing twice the size of a mangaka, the manga artist. Right. So there's a big difference. This is like they're not only drawing the same amount of pages per week, but they're drawing double the size. So I'm thinking because if they had that technology, I mean, they were drawing roughly the size would be like computer paper. That's about what the manga art pages have always been, about that size, like a one, and when they were printing them in bigger magazines, like a 1-to-1 ratio. So you don't have to think about shrinking stuff down, that. It's just you draw a 1-to-1 ratio. Right. And that's why Charlie Adler, who does the artwork for Walking Dead with, Robert Kirkman, his comic art is a 1-to-1 ratio to the printed art. So he doesn't have to shrink. Wars? No. What?
He did Star Wars, sorry, Dark Empire. Oh no!
I didn't read that comic. Oh, I didn't read that. You just threw me off. I was like, "What?" But it's like a 1-to-1 ratio, and that's like how manga is. So I'm thinking, if you were to give Kirby and told him you can only do it this size, like the manga, I'm thinking Kirby could probably do like 100 pages a month, like easily. Like the dude would be cranking that stuff out. Like if I'm really curious. I think anybody else could in the American market because they had inkers. But the Japanese, they were you'd have Akira Toriyama draw the figure work and somebody else draw the backgrounds. Where Kirby was doing everything, he just wasn't inking it. So I don't know. It is a different thing, and I really do think that with the way the manga industry, the manga industry, yeah, they have stars there. Like you have Rumiko Takahashi, and you have Otomo. A dude who never made a movie in his life. He did like that short for Robot Carnival and then did this whole feature-length film. And that thing is, he got space right when Tetsuo goes into space and hacks into the satellite. There's no sound. How many movies you gone into space and they treat it it's sounds bouncing off this, that, whatever. No, he just goes. And you have to be paying attention in that creepy, eerie music after the satellite falls. That and then you see Tetsuo reforming his arm and everything, just reforming it from the metal, and the Kyoko is basically saying we're all screwed if we don't do something about this. It's it is an amazing film, and it's and a comic book film too. So there is a different. I think you're right. There is in the American comics industry, we should go to weekly. We should have weekly content, not all across the board. But there should be a weekly Batman, Superman, Spider-Man comic, like they do in those. There's some newspapers here in the States still that actually do weekly Spider-Man comics. Okay. They're comic strips, but they're still weekly comics. And I think we could do 16 pages a week, charge $1.50 tops, and have a weekly content, and to keep this in public mindset. But that's the Japanese.
And
Daniel, we want those comics weekly now.
I know. I'm gonna lock myself in the room and.
Well, to me, it feels like American comics is more of a hobby, while manga comics is an industry, is a lifestyle. There's an old film, Japanese film called. I should look these things up before actually. It's a movie about manga artists trying to make it. I think it's called The Manga Apartment, and these are all stories about these manga artists wanting to make it. Now you have to understand just like the American industry, there are a million people who want to draw comics or want to draw manga and who have a million stories, and most of them are probably rip-offs of Naruto or whatever. But there's a million manga artists. They all want to make it, and so it's as cutthroat as probably the American industry. But it's an industry that's huge. They sell millions and millions and millions of these graphic novels. Unlike American comics, who I don't know the numbers at the moment. Apparently they aren't good. And manga, and also manga goes for everyone. They make manga based on everything and everyone, and everybody reads manga in Japan. Housewives, boys, girls, college students, husbands, wives. Every demographic is catered to. I think there was a sewing manga. I think there's a sewing manga, a manga about sewing. American comics are pretty much kind of niche. Even the Cape comics are niche. When you really get down to the niche of American comics, like Strangers in Paradise, Bone, and stuff that is just appealing to a certain demographic.
Sandman, even, because that's a cult hit, and that thing didn't sell that great. It wasn't like blowing the doors off 100,000 copies. It had the only reason it's got as much credit as it did because of Neil Gaiman having his novels and having he was a novel writer.
Well, sorry. I think what we should first of all empower the American comic industry should empower their creators a bit more. It feels like take for instance Spider-Man. I collected Spider-Man for ages, and every couple of issues they changed artists or they changed a writer. It felt like that anyway. I'm probably wrong, but it felt like they changed the artist or the writer, and so you get into an artist and then they change it. I honestly think that if you're going to have an artist on something, they should be there for the long haul, and they should be dedicated to that comic. Like, say, JJ Romero, you're doing Spider-Man. That's all you're doing. That's in your brain. The same with the writers. If you're writing something, and also we need more editorial, control over some, because we see what's happening in the American comics nowadays. They have no respect for the characters. They have no respect for the back. Look, apparently Weapon X, they've completely changed her backstory now. Apparently now she's just an orphan. She's not genetically engineered from Wolverine. She's just his daughter or some crap. And they're trying to push Honey Badger or something. Honey Badger. Who the hell is Honey Badger?
Yeah, I've come across this character, and it's like, they just need to turn the lights out in the Marvel universe. Just start over from scratch. Just start, turn the lights out, and then start up with Human Torch and Namor fighting over Manhattan. Then the Fantastic Four going to space. Xavier recruiting some teenage kids. Just start over. Not even like Ultimate. Just start over. Just go ahead.
Don't mention what happened. Just
exactly. Just start over, and just because there's the problem with introducing these characters. Somebody's going to eventually say, "But I liked Honey Badger." It's like no, you don't get that.
Punch them? Did you punch them when they said that? Because my first reaction was just.
I abhor violence. Violence is horrible.
Except it's against Honey Badger fans.
It's like, dear God, they already got Dawkins or whatever his name is. Like, oh God.
Do you think they should do one of those 0 hour, one of those Crisis on Infinite Earth things where they destroy the current Marvel universe?
Yes, kill the first to die are those. They kind of did that with Civil War, but that's another thing. Like the way the Japanese and American, like you were saying, you didn't see Akira Toriyama get switched out for some just random dude, where you're reading Dragon Ball and you get episode or whatever in the comic or chapter 200 and 2, and then here comes some random Joe Schmo mangaka, showing up and he's drawing instead, so the artwork's completely different. Where it's like American comics. People are like, well, you're just going to give it a chance. They're way too forgiving, because American comic fans disgust me. They're like the lowliest worms for them a lot of the time, where it's like they'll lick the boot of somebody. It's like, but well, it'll get better. You have to give it a chance. The first issue is the indicator how good the story is. Don't give me this shit. Don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. This is garbage comics. And then when they pull this stuff, nobody else does it. The Japanese don't do it. The Brits don't do it. The French and the Belgians, when they do their comics, like they do the albums, they do the bande dessinée, as they call them, the 40, 50-page stories under a hardcover where it's the one artist doing it. You don't read Black Sad and get 3 different artists for one story. It's, I forgot the artist's name, but, Jesus something, whatever. But yeah, you don't get multiple artists doing one story. It's just like, if you want to do a different story with different artists, do it with one, do one story with that one artist, do another story for another. Don't pull this like 3 artists working on one story crap. That's what I hated about the 90s. You'd have artists that get too slow and get too behind because they're playing PlayStation or something, or getting high. Yeah.
Nowadays, the switch out between artists are like, it's too fast, right?
It's too common. Like that
3 issues. Maybe.
Dude, exactly. The most recent, like DC's version of Spider-Man, Hulk, Fantastic Four, X-Men, all that stuff. We call their New Age of Heroes crap.
Sideways.
They only did like 3 issues. Like most of the artists only did like 3, 4 issues, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And so they can't. Not even John Romita Jr. could be committed. Like they took him off the book for some reason. So I don't know what the deal is. I really don't.
Well, our joke, me and my mate's joke was about Joe Madureira Battle Chasers. Oh, Final Fantasy, whatever's come out. Yeah, we're not seeing another issue.
No, it's the truth, though. It is the truth, because this is... Here's the thing. You got to have a passion for comics, man. You got to have a passion.
Yeah.
And once these guys, like money corrupts, like you start getting paid good amount of money, you start working for one of these, doing design work, like you go from working on Battle Chasers, whatever it is. And then you start working on, these, for a video game company, doing design work, whatever. And then you're like, you know what? Comics ain't aren't as important as I thought they were at one time. And that's how it feels. And
it feels like a hobby. American comics really feel like it's just a hobby, not an, because I guess it's because it's not such a huge industry like manga is. Manga's industry, like it is literally the definition of the word. But comics still, it feels like, especially nowadays, a hobby. Like a bunch of people get together and they love comics and they want to draw them. And I'm not saying it's a terrible thing, because we keep the normies out. But you know what I mean? It's like, it still feels niche. Because, there's not very many people other than us and our age group who read them. Like, I mean, my mum doesn't go out and actually looks for a comic. My sister doesn't go out and actually look for a comic. And also, there's really a lack of American comics for kids. Like my sister's kids, I can't give them any of my comics. Manga, you can give any of my manga I have to my sister's kids, and they'll read it, and it's fairly kid-friendly. But comics nowadays, unless you're going for like the Archies and the Sonics, there's not superhero comics that are for kids unless they're actually made for kids, like, the little chibi versions of the Fantastic Four and all that they had a television show for a while. I think there's some comics out there too.
There's also in the American comic industry, it seems like it's just a vehicle to pitch something. So it could be a movie or a TV show, a live action TV show or movie, which kind of removes the artist element after a while. Like your thing gets optioned for a movie and then somehow the screenwriter takes over and the actors become your characters. So you as an artist disappear from the equation. Unlike in Japan, your thing gets adapted into an anime. So they still see your style in the cartoons. So you're still involved in a way, or you still get, some recognition from it. But in American comics, it's just
Sorry, you keep talking. I'm just gonna mute you guys.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so it's like a thing you can disappear from. You know what I mean, Larry?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like and also like stuff like people don't realize Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, one of my favorite. It's a Ghibli. It's a oh damn it, what's his name? What is it? What is the guy's name? The director? Oh, damn it. I try to think of it. I can picture him in my head. I can actually draw him right now. The director, the guy who did Ghibli, did Spirited Away.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. There you go. Hayao Miyazaki. There you go. Yeah. Well, Nausicaa, before Nausicaa could be made into a film, it had to be a manga first. And people don't realize that there was 20 volumes or something, like 20 chapters or whatever. Something crazy like that. And like it had to be a manga first, before, like basically prove itself, and until they make it into a film. And there are people in the comics industry, like American comics industry, where you have writers that have these ideas, so they just hire an artist, work for hire. You don't have any stake in the property, but it's just like I'm not, there's no. The best example I could think of would kind of be what happened with Tony Moore with the whole Walking Dead situation, where it's like Charles Adler gets, like he got a name on it too, but like there was time where Tony Moore didn't. And there are people that will reach out to artists like, hey, draw my idea. Oh, you'll just be getting a flat fee. You won't have any stake in the project. So if it gets taken off, and that's what happens. But with Japan, like you're right. I mean, there are much more. They treat it as a true industry. It's a much more thriving industry. And I talked with Perch about this a month or two back, or maybe longer. The Japanese, like the phone companies and tablets, they're built in to natively have like digital comics readers and be comics reading friendly. So even if you're not picking up the physical books, or you got an online subscription to whatever, and you're on the train, instead of having the magazines or the comics, the manga, you can read them on your phone or your tablet or what have you, and not be hindered one way or another. While here in the States, oh wow, your comic sold 100,000 copies, but it's an event book, if you're lucky. And it's a shame though. It's like, where Marvel, DC, like majority of their books sell under 40,000. And like there's books that sell, like the first issue sells 20,000. It's only going to go down. This isn't, like usually there's a second issue bump where they go or decline, and then sometimes a third issue gets ordered higher and higher, and that happens. That's how it used to be. Now it's just until it's canceled.
It's interesting. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I was thinking about this, and it's interesting, the difference between the manga and the comic industry. First of all, when I say Superman, you know who I mean. Superman is one of the most iconic characters in the world. In Japan, in China, in America, in Australia. But not so much manga doesn't have those characters. Like you could say Goku if you want. You could say Luffy, but we're talking Superman. He's not, as they say, he's an icon, a symbol of justice and all that. And so kind of my question is, do you think manga can do that? Do you think manga can have like a character like Superman? Or is it just, I mean, they have their Saiyan warriors like Kamen Rider and all that. I think that's kind of the difference between the manga and the comic industry. They've created icons like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and you'll see them on movies and stuff. But you won't see a Goku multi-million-dollar, well, you did and it was terrible, but you won't see a multi-billion-dollar movie of Dragon Ball on the level of, say, Batman vs. Superman.
When you think about it, look at it this way. When you think of Superman, you think of the symbol, right? The S shield. When you think of Batman, you think of the oval with the bat in it, or even just the standard bat logo, like the kind of very blocky look. You think of the X-Men, you think of the circle with the X and the red background. You think of the Avengers, you think of that A with the arrow. You think of, like these things. Yeah. Like Captain America, you think of the shield, with or the white A, that very blocky white A. When you think of Goku, you think of like a vague Japanese maybe symbol on his back of the turtle house symbol or whatever that he fights for, kind of like like Daniel-san from Karate Kid has a better, more memorable symbol. He has the bonsai logo, the Miyagi-Do Dojo, that kind of thing. He has a more memorable symbol. because it's not just a bunch of kanji on the back of a yellow jumpsuit, yellow gi, or orange gi. Sorry, not yellow, orange gi. And that's the problem with a lot of manga and just in general. Like, there are no real. I mean, yeah, you see a guy with the crazy hair like Goku. Okay, that's Goku, but there's no real universal thing. Like, multiple artists, it's like certain people try to draw Goku in their style. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't look right. It wouldn't look like Goku. And it's kind of how Preacher, the Garth Ennis series is. When Steve Dillon or actually Glenn Fabry could do it as well, but Steve Dillon, the main artist, when he wasn't drawing, he could draw, Jesse Custer, he could draw Tulip, all that. You'd say, oh, that's Jesse, that's Tulip, whatever. Or Cassidy, oh yeah, there he is. But somebody else draws these characters, you're like, who's that supposed to be? You have to be told who it is. Where Superman can be drawn by, like, I could draw Superman, Daniel could draw Superman. Hell, you could draw Superman too, dude. It doesn't matter if you do certain things, it tells you who the character is. Goku doesn't have that. Goku, it can be like just some guy with crazy, like, fuzzy hair or frizzy hair. It's certain, you could draw Kamen Rider. Like, is this some motorcycle dude? Like, what's going on here? That's how it is. It's like, Wolf and Cub is just some random samurai dude. And that's the problem with a lot of these. When they do those American artists drawing like manga characters, it's real. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes if not most of the time, it's embarrassing because it don't even look right. When you think of Akira, drawing, I'm talking Akira, the character, not just the book. This little prince sitting on his throne with his scepter and all that, and his cape flowing. It doesn't look right when some American artist does it. Same thing when drawing Tetsuo.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like it does.
I hear that.
Yeah, it's like, just don't even bother. It's like you can be influenced by it. I have no problem with the influence, but drawing it directly, it's always been funky with me because there's stuff that doesn't translate, and visually, I don't think it translates at all. Like Joe Mad, God, as much as I love him, Joe Mad's drawing an American version of Dragon Ball. I'm like, please, God, no. Finish Battle Chasers. Do something else. Just give up. Just quit. Just go fishing for the rest of your life. Please do not do American Dragon Ball. But
I really prefer that. Like, somebody brought up, like, I like the shoujo, which is the girl style, should like kind of make it into American comics a little bit. I say, no, I don't want that. I like my manga separate. I like influences over both sides, but I don't want them to, like, I don't want to see like a shoujo style story in American comics. American comics, it has its style, it has its, like, the way I like it, and I like my manga to be like this. I might be a little closed-minded, but that's the way I like it. That's what I like. I like Cape comics and I like manga comics, or manga, sorry. That's the way I like it. I like reading Superman, doing Superman-y stuff, and I like Naruto jumping off trees and throwing huge shurikens at each other. That's what I like. I don't like when they kind of cross-contaminate to the point where it's like just kind of ugly and like you said, like when Joe Mad does freaking Dragon Ball or something. I don't want to see Marvel doing a Dragon Ball American series. It's freaking horrible. Can you imagine that? Did anyone? And the reverse is true too. The reverse is true too. Do you ever read the Japanese Spider-Man comic? That was terrible.
It was bad.
Terrible.
You know what wasn't terrible? Was the Bat Manga comic. Have you ever read that?
I've seen it. I haven't read it. I've seen the artwork for it. I don't know if it was any good. I know there was a whole manga verse.
I have
Marvel, sorry.
It is incredible because I have the hardcover of it. And the biggest problem I have with the book, this is my biggest problem, the dickhead over at DC, guy named Chip Kidd, has his name all over the damn book, but he's not he don't even have you don't get the name of the artist, the writer artist for the comic, for the Bat manga itself, until like 15, 20 pages into the book. And they have like a 1-page little article for him, but they have enough room and time for all these, like, oh, here's like a Japanese Batman toy from the 60s. They only have like a quick interview with the writer artist. and they don't even have his name on the cover. It should be oh God, what's his name again? Jiro. Oh, what's his name? Damn it. Jiro Kawata. That's the name of the artist. But the mind if I share the screen? Okay, we'll do that.
You don't have to ask, man. Just do it.
Another thing about this, I'm a guest. It's permission. But like, here's the cover, and granted, here's one of the covers, and like, but it's like Chip Kid is the first name up here. It should be Jiro Iwata, and then with Chip Kid or whatever.
What did Chip Kid
do? Oh, he's just the design guy. He's like he designed this image. He's the guy that's in charge of all those horrible logos at DC. But like this is the best one. This is the Lord Deathman stuff. And
I think the Batman manga is one thing that I can let get away, because it was actually pretty decent, wasn't it?
Yeah, but look at this. Yeah, it's like the skeletons on the ceiling. Oh, how ghastly. And then look at them. Look at them all. What does this mean? I am Lord Deathman. Everyone stay right where you are. If anyone tries to make a move, you'll get a taste of this. It's so great.
It is. I love it. I haven't seen enough of this to. I know Grant Morrison brought Deadman back though.
Oh, actually, Lord Deathman is Deathman was a character that showed up in the comics, like in the Batman comics. He's like used like once, but this comic, this is one of the stories. He battles a gorilla. I mean, it's so weird. It's wonderful. I recommend it. There's a soft cover print out there. Yeah, there's some creepy stuff like that. Yeah. Ooh.
It's interesting when you see Japanese, all the Japanese take a very American thing and kind of try to keep the American sensibility, but still inject their own. Take, for instance, the Simpsons arcade game. You ever play the Simpsons arcade game?
Mm-hmm.
They've completely, it's still got the look of the Simpsons and all that, but Mr. Burns is a bad guy. Waylon Smithers is stealing a diamond. Why? Why would they need to do that at all? There's a big wrestler dude in it for some reason. It has very, other than the look and the characters, it has very little to do with the Simpsons, story-wise. Why does Mr. Burns need to steal a diamond? Why is there a big wrestling dude in it? Why does Moe's Tavern go on forever? It was freaking cool though. I love that game. I love Children of the Atom. Children of the Atom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that the Blame creator, I'm gonna say his name completely incorrectly, Suatomi Nihil. Yeah, I said that completely incorrectly. He did a Wolverine comic.
Right, called Snicked, right?
It was literally Blame with Wolverine.
Yeah, it was
Blame with Wolverine. They changed out the character for Wolverine. It was literally the same thing, but it was pretty cool. My mate got it. I don't know where. I think he's still got it. No, I think I've got it now. Actually, I think I borrowed it off him and never gave it back. Probably amongst all my crap.
Do you remember Katsuhiro Otomo did a Batman comic, a short for Batman Black and White?
Yes, I did, and it was a little rough around the edges, man. I was
the best one.
But the art was great, though.
Yeah. I've got also Child of Dreams.
Oh, the guy who did the Vampire D design stuff. What was his name?
Kai Isamiya.
Yes. Yeah. Oh no, that's a different book. Oh yeah, that's the Batman one. I'm thinking of the other thing with the guy who did the design work for Vampire D. I don't know.
No.
But
this one, the guy who did this you were talking about Anime America X or Animerica X. He did that steampunk one in that one.
Oh yeah. He also did. He was part of the very controversial Chuck Austin run of Uncanny X-Men. That's the one where Juggernaut was made a hero, and he had like a little kid sidekick. He's like Fish Boy. And
I remember that.
and the artwork, I loved it. It's, you know, I'm like, oh, this is amazing, and you know, there's people like, no, it sucks, you know. So of course,
Yeah, Chuck Austin was a controversial dude, right? I mean, why? How did he get the gig? Like, was he like buddies with them or something? Or
I don't know. I know he did, and it sold well. That the War Machine, the Max series War Machine, it was like a weekly series, and it was like digitally computer like illustrated kind of thing, like, you know, like posers and stuff like that.
right?
And he did it all himself. And Chuck Austin worked in animation. He worked on King of the Hill. He actually created that Tripping the Rift short. That
I remember that.
It was actually stolen from him, allegedly.
Oh.
So it's like they made a TV series off of that. He also worked on Miracle Man back in the day.
Oh, okay.
But he also has he has his hand in manga. He did a manga, and I'll actually look it up real quick. Let's find it. They actually Tokyo Pop. Oh, here we go. Share his screen.
I remember Tokyo Pop. There was a lot of those.
Yep.
There was Tokyo Pop, Animerica, Animerica X, Anime UK, which is the one I got because I loved a British video game magazine called Super Play, and the woman who used to do the manga section, the anime section, did Anime UK. Sorry, keep going.
Oh yeah, this is the comic Boys of Summer. It was a baseball comic that Tokyo Pop put out, and they were supposed to do a collection of it, but because of some reason they didn't. Like, they only put the first volume out, and yeah, it's a little very, you know, as you can tell, very lecherous-minded, not too kid-friendly as it were, but it was going to be like one of those like original mangas, like Chuck Austin writing it with Hiroyuki Otsuka doing the artwork. And that fell through, which is unfortunate. But he had his hand in, you know, manga as well. But I don't know if you guys remember this, the Marvel Mangaverse.
Oh yeah,
it was yeah. It's like this stuff was not good. This was
what was that?
Oh, that was the Punisher. That was the Punisher. Their version of the Punisher.
Burn.
What?
Peter David and Leah Hernandez. One of the Hernandez.
What?
Okay. Peter David. I'm a fan of Jaime Hernandez, Los Brothers Hernandez, Jaime Hernandez, Gilberto Hernandez. Big fans of those guys. This is their sister doing the artwork, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry. This is the they put you on.
Wait.
Punisher come.
Peter David.
Yep. Peter David.
The guy who wrote
Hulk.
Hulk, the run of Hulk that I love the most.
Oh yeah!
Wow, that's amazing. Who else was writing these other ones? Who was on?
We had this is the second version of it. We had C.B. Cebulski writing that. The current editor in chief of Marvel. We had this Avengers Assemble book. Udon put that out. Something exactly who did what. Let's see.
Very square.
Yeah, this was a weird time. Right?
Oh my god! Yeah, it was a weird damn time. Like, there was like.
It was like they went out of business, right? Like, Ron Perlman and whoever was running Marvel sold it off, or had financial problems, bankruptcy, right? They went bankruptcy.
Yeah, the bankruptcy. They were still in business, but it was like they were trying everything to stay relevant. And this is around the time of the transition where Joe Quesada took over. Like, a lot of this stuff was the first time they did this stuff, because they've done it multiple times. Like Adam Warren. There we go. We got Adam Warren right here. Yeah. So this is some. What in the world? I don't know.
Who's the artist here? Kieran Grant. He's a good artist, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just. I'm I normally like his work, but it's just that right there. It's like
it's funny. This is probably all of this is probably better than what Marvel's putting out at the moment. That's what
I don't know, man. That Amazing Spider-Man, pretty great, dude. Amazing Spider-Man's great, except for the price. It's like $4 an issue, and it's every 2 weeks.
I heard Fantastic Four was terrible though.
Yeah, that's god awful. And it's like Sue Storm's written like
I didn't like this this whole I'm gonna I'm gonna have this manga verse thing, like I'm gonna shove this off to the side kind of thing. Where back then they had like guys like Carlos Pacheco and Joe Mad drawing in a manga style, like, you know, and saying we're gonna bring this to American comics. And then during the early Quesada eras, it was like, oh, we're gonna shove this in just the manga verse, okay? So we can shove this here, so if it fails, we don't have to deal with the manga again.
Sounds like Marvel.
Is it me, or does her costume look like a breeze could blow her bottoms off like that, right? It's just like...
Maybe
it's a little too much. I'm not gonna argue too much. I'm just pointing out stating the obvious.
Stereotype that you know, just stereotypes of manga just swooshed into one.
Oh, they made the Hulk Godzilla. What?
That's kind of understandable, though. You knew that was coming.
Yeah, but
God.
Oh, come on. Oh God. Oh my God! Oh no!
Look at this! Look, a female version of Captain America. Oh wait,
actually, there was a female version of Captain America previously called what was her name? Damn it! Beautiful looking artwork. I can't remember the name right now.
With Wolverine? Why is Wolverine taking all these freaking Sawyer? He looks really freaking.
He looks like Vegeta's like bad clone, like. Black Cat, I guess. Yeah, Spider Girl.
Did they hire anyone from Japan to draw these, or
probably not? They're too cheap. It's like, hey, get those guys over at Antarctic Press. Oh my God! It's just so incredible.
I thought Marvel was all the only people who can relate to these characters can write them. What the hell? Oh, well, that's cool. I remember the Mangaverse, and I didn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole because I knew what was there. I knew what was going on there. Hey, I used to collect Ninja High School, so remember that?
Ben Dunn.
I just couldn't get into that. It was just not that well done as far as I was concerned.
Well, we're looking at that. Let's have a look. Let's have another question. So we've looked at the the Marvel version of manga tropes. What do you think of the manga's version of American superhero tropes, as in One Punch Man and My Hero Academia, and all that stuff's coming out at the moment? They seem to have a big love for superheroes in Japan, and they seem to be doing better than America, if you ask me.
Oh, Daniel, you can go ahead.
Well, I never read them. Like, I haven't read them.
Well,
I don't know.
One Punch Man. You should read One Punch Man, because One Punch Man is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I've read some of One Punch Man. Like, I've read some of the first volume, and I've seen the anime. So, it's great. I mean, the art's great. The action is great. The action is superior to what we get here. Like, I mean, I think in American comics, we just gave up on action scenes, you know, just gave up on like innovating in new action scenes. Now it's just people just sitting down having coffee. And at least in these, and somehow in these parodies or half parody mangas and animes, it seems like they have more appreciation for the simplicity of the form than we do. Now it's all kind of like we're just tired at this point. So even though it's kind of like a joke or a take or a send up, it seems to have more life than what we do. Like, we're over it. I don't know, but Larry, what do you think of these things?
I have not read any of the mangas. I understand I should probably read them, but here's the problem. I tried watching that first. I watched the first episode of One Punch Man. I'm like, okay, this is what all the entire series is going to be like. All right, I'm done. I don't need to watch anymore. And I get the joke. I get the whole idea behind it.
It's a gag, right?
Yeah, it's like
it's more like I get that. Like that. Oh, he punches in it, but as the series goes along, it starts introducing the other superheroes, and it actually has a lot of backstory and connections there's a lot of they're building up at the moment. They're building up the lore and the world building at the moment, and it's really interesting. And some of the later graphic novels concentrate on the hero. So because there's a like kind of hero corporation that put you, depending on your skill and your ability, puts you in certain categories. And so the robot guy, his friend, I can't remember his name, it's terrible. He's on the highest level. So, but you have to do heroing to keep getting paid. And what's really interesting is that when he finds it out, he freaks out and he has to go out and try to find to do some superhero work, only to find that there's nobody there needing his help, and they just think he's a huge creep trying to harass people and girls and all that. But no, it gets really good. Yeah, I understand. A lot of people think, oh,
well, it's not just the
punches, but
that ain't the punch thing was the gimmick, though.
Sorry,
it wasn't the gimmick of the he one punched. It wasn't that. It was okay. We're gonna this is I get the haha, American. It's like the mockery of the superhero, the American superhero, which it's like if it's done well, like if and also much tighter form. Like main reason I don't really manga now, and it's topic I guess we kind of brush on. The reason I don't, because they're way too damn long. $10 a volume, gotta wait 28 volumes. They take up a lot of space. If they come out, there's still like some books, there's like 30 volumes plus, but they haven't translated them all. And they might not get them all here in the States. So you start reading a book, you might not be able to finish it.
That's true.
And that's another thing. And you have to, and a lot of this stuff I don't want to like it, because if I do and I can't get my fix, that's another thing that's left unfinished. and that right there is the biggest problem with this, because you're importing this stuff. It doesn't really happen to American comics. Yeah, there's like a few comics that never got finished, probably never will, but there's possibility of hope, because American comics, it's gonna be done. It's gonna be done in English. It isn't gonna be done in Japanese. Well, there's fan translate. I don't have to jump through some hoop and download something and to make my computer all diseased just to read a comic and as JPEG image.
To get diseases, there's a lot of really, really good manga reading sites that don't even have pop-up ads. They just
because they got a little backdoor malware that they just go in without anything like going.
Virus protection, right, dude?
Yeah, sure, man. There's probably some really hardcore stuff, because you got to think, well, who's reading this stuff? Is it Joe Blow farmer in the middle of America? No, it's people with good computer systems that usually have their banking information hooked up through their system and everything. It's like people that online bank. Yeah,
Apple Pay.
My live streams turn into a conspiracy thread.
Yeah, well, I know Facebook says they want your banking information.
Yeah, man. Hey, if Facebook, Apple, Google, Spotify, if they go after one person all in the same day, and the guy's like always talking about conspiracies, there probably is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So,
they banned this guy. What's his face?
Jones.
Ethan Klein, for talking about the man who I guess can't be named. He was just talking about a podcast. They just said, "Oh, you're banned from live streaming." Yeah, they mentioned
H3H3.
Yeah,
really?
He went on Twitter. Is his top tweet, I guess now his top tweet today is like, "Oh, that was talking about
Alex
who?
Jones.
Yeah, Alex Jones." And then he says, "Oh, they cut me off. They said I can't live stream, and I have to complete the episode offline."
Papa Bless, what the hell?
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now. I'm looking it up now. Wow, Team YouTube just shut down our H3 podcast live stream and gave us a strike for talking about Alex Jones. What? Let's see.
Well, on two smaller channels, so they ain't gonna do it. Beep.
Yeah, they cut you off.
They have the algorithm that hears the word Alex.
Yeah, Alex Jones. We
gotta have a fake name for him, like AJ or something. I have to call him something else.
Shivers. Well, I do people out there, I do highly recommend My Hero Academia. It is an amazing world building. I wouldn't call it superhero. It does follow very Naruto tropes, as in characters are young and they get stronger and more powerful, and then they face bad guys. I mean, if you've read Dragon Ball Z and you've read Naruto and you've read One Piece, it pretty much follows that format. But now they've got superheroes, and we all know who the best girl is, so I don't have to mention her name.
Sailor Venus.
Take your Sailor Venus and
what? We got somebody better? You got somebody better?
Venus. We all know it's about Sailor Mars, so don't bring that Sailor Venus here. What next? Say Chie's the best persona girl? Oh god, don't even start.
Don't go there, Larry.
I thought you were more of a the Sailor Uranus fan myself.
There was actually a Sailor Uranus. She's not bad, but
you got a little extra down there, man. Best of both worlds, right? It's funny because it's true.
Before you gave up on manga, Larry, what was your favorite manga? What was something you were
at the time, because I finished reading Eyes, I''S. It's the Masakazu Katsura manga. It's that romance story, and I was reading that, and like I was just getting ball busted at the comic shop for picking it up. I was like, why am I picking it up here from? They're going to be ball busting me all the time. And I'm not getting a discount. I get it off of Amazon. So I was like, getting it off Amazon. I'm like, screw this shop. Because they were, if they're not giving me a discount, I can get it for like $2 off on Amazon. So I was reading that. But at the time, Tokyo Pop was putting out the Battle Royale comics. But here they did these, what they call Ultimate Edition, like 3 volumes in one. And they went under before they went under, before they went under, I did not get the last 2 volumes, the Ultimate Editions. I was like, I'll wait till Volume 5 comes out, and I'll get both Volume 4 and 5 because I figured it'd be easier to just go get 2 at the same time instead of just 1 and then another one. And the 5th volume's cheapest I've been able to find it online is like $270. Because it's extremely rare, and I have the first 3 volumes, and I don't have the 4th or 5th. So it's probably Eyes, but possibly Battle Royale. It says around like 2008, 2009, give or take. So yeah,
Battle Royale, that was some wild shit.
Oh my god! Like I thought here's the thing. I was thinking, oh my god, the movie was so tame.
Oh yeah,
like. The comic, which there's a part in a comic where this girl seduces a guy, and then it's like the sports star, and then when he starts getting all uppity with her, she reveals that she's a high school girl and she's underage, and so it's like and he ends up killing himself just to escape the possibility of being outed as basically a child molester or rapist. Yeah, so it's a dark book.
They've re-released it. They've done some remasters of it.
I'd have to check it out because it's been a while since I looked it up. But so good.
Battle Royale 1. Here we go. Oh, unavailable. Okay. Oh, that's a damn shame. I did read 1 volume of that actually.
I was reading Gantz as well. Gantz was another one I was reading.
Did you get cut by the edge?
No, I did not. I just got I got cut by the this book has many volumes and not all of them are translated yet and isn't finished monster. So
he's moved on actually. Now he's doing something else called I've got it actually. It's about an old guy who gets turned into a robot. It's pretty good actually. The artwork's amazing as usual for that guy. He's a freaking insane artist. It's called Inuyashiki. Inuyashiki. I think that's okay.
But yeah.
Have you read I Am a Hero? It's a zombie thing, and it takes.
Oh, I don't read zombie comics anymore. It's zombie. Like you tell me it's the greatest comic ever. No, I won't even give it a time of day.
Well, it's funny because it takes at least half the volume to actually get to the zombies.
Also, it's a slow burn. Definitely not a comic over. And that's the thing. It's like these world building, this, that, whatever. Here's the thing: Dragon Ball, Dr. Slump, love it. The original. I'm talking Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball, because the world is revealed as you go along. You don't have this focus on world building and all that and lore and all that crap. Right. That stuff to me, when I hear lore, world building, I'm going. It just bores me to sleep. You can do both. It's like Dragon Ball. You're introduced to this world where Goku's grandfather is killed. You know, the guy adopted him and everything, which is weird because he would sleep with his head on the guy's crotch. There's some weird stuff going on.
There's weird stuff going on.
Maybe the Orzuru, the giant gorilla, monkey version of Goku knew what was up. It's like, you're molesting this little boy. I'm gonna kill you, you son of a bitch.
Goku. Didn't Bulma show Goku, the little kid, her panties or something?
No. The thing about it is, what happened is in the manga, Goku goes fishing. He uses his tail to fish, but he strips naked to do it. Of course, he reveals later on, and Bulma shows up looking for the Dragon Balls because Goku has Dragon Ball, and he thinks his grandfather's spirit's within the Dragon Ball, and so they go on the adventure. They meet up with Oolong and everything. But before all that, around that time, like they're on Bulma's basically RV, and she goes to sleep, and Goku comes like he's gonna go to sleep, and so he's used to sleeping with his head in his grandfather's lap, and so he puts his head in her lap, and she's got like a t-shirt on and a pair of panties, and he's like, something ain't right. It's like, and he's like patting her vagina, patting her pubis mons. And it's like, wait, there's nothing here. There's no dick and balls. So he pulls off her panties and looks at her crotch and is like, oh my God, somebody stole your balls. So it makes me think she had a giant clitoris. But and so she's freaked out, and like there's nudity in the original comic. Like she's showering and you see Yamcha creeping on her and stuff. But Oolong is the one who's like, I'll surrender to these people's village if you show me your panties and all that stuff. It's a weird, but you follow along. Okay, there is a shape-changing pig who rules the town, who's like taking brides, and then he's like, take me away from these women because they're annoying me. It's like he got what he wanted. He's like, he can't turn them back in now. It's like, yes, dear. He's like, I gotta get out of here. And when the crossover with Penguin Village, like all that crazy. That Penguin, there's a perfect example. Penguin Village, when you want to do superhero stuff and take the piss out of it, that interests me. When they did it in Dr. Slump, when they had Superman, and Super in Japanese means sour. So Superman, he's like his face is all like that. He changes, and then Commander Blue from the Red Ribbon Army shows up, and he's got psychic powers. So he's kind of like so he shows up and he's kicking ass, and it's all these people are used to like goofy, silly stuff, and it basically becomes a Nazi with psychic powers, and they can't really do nothing to stop him. Except Rayleigh doesn't mess up, and Rayleigh's a hero in herself. She's She's like Pinocchio, Frankenstein, but a little girl as well. Got a little Astro Boy action going on. She's an android who can't see right, who screws up, who, it's all that weirdness. I love that. And the comic, there's a part where Rayleigh befriends a bear, and the bear gets shot, and just like in a Superman comic, it's like if Superboy befriended a bear, the bear dies. What does Superboy do? He finds a way to save the bear. In this case, in the comic, the bear gets turned into a cyborg. Like, what? The cyborg bear, it's like the T1. It's like this, like, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. It's so good. And there's baby Godzillas, and there's baby Gameras. Bizarre. Utterly bizarre. I love it.
Yeah, no, Dragon Ball, sorry. We never got that in Australia, actually. But But I used to have an Anime UK magazine, and I went through every episode. And I go, man, I really want to watch this. We didn't get it until Dragon Ball Z. So, and my mate collected every DVD. He has every DVD of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, including all the movies.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard
I watched. Yeah, I watched Dragon Ball Z in the original Japanese. I had to get these VHS tapes from my buddy on a super SLP VHS tape.
Can you speak Japanese?
No, it was dubbed. It was it was a bootleg fan dub.
I've got a few of those. I got all my Rama half in a bootleg. Like that.
I mean sub. Sorry, a sub, not like some dude trying to.
Yeah, sub. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, Rama half had nakedness in it, but it was never sexual. It was just I'm taking a bath, so I have to take my clothes off, or it was for the joke. So Rama would walk in on Akane in the thing, and then she would scream and whack him or throw something at him or crink his neck. And so for an entire chapter, his neck was crinked to one side, and he couldn't correct it because. And then he would get his neck back, and then she would whack him again. His neck would be crinked back for the rest of rest of the comic or the rest of the run. But that was so good about Rama was just the crazy stuff. Like they met a girl who pretended to be a boy who could make really good Japanese pizza to the point where it was a martial art. So she would throw the okayamaki, I think that's what you call it, at your face, and poor Rama would get it in his face all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot about these, like the censorship here in the States, and we had the Comics Code Authority, think of the children, all that crap. It's like, hey, you child hoodlums, you breaking windows, not doing what your parents told. What are your entertainment? Oh, we read comics. Well, because comics are cheap. They probably listen to radio shows and all that kind of stuff. So, of course, comics are the bad guy. It's like, hey, you criminal, what do you eat? Well, I eat pizza. Pizza, clearly, that's like most people eat pizza, so that means these people are criminals. So it's like all people that eat pizza equal criminals. It's like it's stupid. It's stupid.
I don't know.
It's like the video games cause violence bullshit.
I know radio shows made me want to go break into a house to get away from the radio show.
I don't know, man. You gotta think this is a different time. Like now would be that way, but there's there's something about it. It's like the Japanese never had that to a degree. I mean, they had different censorship, but it was never that same. But yeah, there is something about the way Japan handles the comics where you could have everything from where almost everything's on the same level. You could have the action stuff like your Dragon Ball Z. Or you have the comedy like Dragon Ball, which had the action as well. You had straight up action like Dragon Ball Z. You could have horror. You could have romance. You can have slice of life about like, a woman, she wants to become some hot chef. You have a comic about that. That comic would never be sold. Somebody put it out and then be canceled right away, and they say, the patriarchy wanted to stop, like that kind of stuff. They'll find an excuse instead of just saying it just wasn't for the market. And you see a book like if you were to put out a Cyberforce comic that looked like manga influence, like Pat Lee did some Cyberforce issues for a bit, and that was long gone. But this put out something like sexy women and like what you expect from this kind of book. And if it sells well, there you go. But a lot of these people don't, take that effort. It's like, I think the Japanese know their market. They give their market what they want, but also giving them what they don't know they want yet. Like taking chances on certain things.
And I think they do things like they didn't abandon like the teen demo, like whatever that 14 to 22 market like we have. It's just, a lot of the comics that we do now is like the New Age of Heroes. They had this book called The Terrifics. I don't know, like if going back to 1950s style titles, like is going to appeal to a young person, even though this is like the new line of comics that's supposed to appeal to young people, I guess, getting into comics. like we still seem to be targeting the same demo.
Yeah.
You know, Japan, you know, they still think teen is important, you know.
Yeah. And that right there, like they cover all ages. I mean, you have comics, you know, here in the States, mainly geared towards 30-plus-year-old men. And the comics that are like, you know, oh, we're friendly to LGBT and people of color, what have you. And then they don't sell that great because, you know, you're limiting your audience. It's like you know, Japan, like there's a variety amount of content. And it's like where it's like non-exclusive books. It's like, yeah, you have so many different. It's like Japan has it right. America is like, we have some horror, we have some sci-fi, we have some like very, 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 very little romance. You know, like weird, strange, bizarre stuff, and then we have like mainly superhero stuff. And with all that, Japan's just like, we got your kids covered. Oh, your kid likes a story about this fish that goes on an adventure on land. He gets brave enough to breathe air and not have to breathe through the water or something like that.
That's
you know,
thing, isn't it?
What?
Is that a thing? Like,
I just made that up. That actually sounds.
Okay.
I actually kind of. I have great ideas sometimes. What can I say? That actually sounds like
well, there is a manga about a fish. There's an actual manga about fishes. Like it's like a romance with fish. I don't know what it's called. I've forgotten. But there is actually a manga about fish, and I thought that's what you were talking about.
Oh no, I was making that up. It's like a fish is like, you know, you're told, oh, you can't go like above this certain thing because you do, you'll die. And he's like, I don't need to be told what to do. So he goes over this rebellious teenage fish, and he goes and does the impossible. He's like a fish that dared to dream and that kind of thing. You know, it actually sounds like an incredible story. Actually, damn it, I can't draw fish to save my life, so forget it. But yeah, that kind of thing. Like Japan has you covered. Here in the States, it's like where Alterna, they have kid market, they have adult, they have teen, they have that stuff covered. And there's people like, oh, that looks silly. You know, it doesn't look like like art's not that great. Like there's like whatever. There's people complaining. But if kids read it and they're enjoying it, that's what should matter. You know, it's marketed towards kids. Like there's some people say, well, you know, you can market it towards all ages. But like when you think about it, like they're marketing these comics, a lot of people to, you know, like say 7-8-year-old to 16-year-old, give or take. And not talk down to anybody, but not make it so over, like the reading level so high, and like put giant $20 words in there, like nobody's heard of in like 50 years.
Exactly.
You're born in the 50s. You're using $50 words there, son.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to be a little modest. It's like, it's like if you've ever watched a Razor Fist video, the Rageaholic, it's like $100 words used. It's like you could have said something half the amount of time, like simple it down, but whatever. It's like that kind of thing. It's like it's Alan Moore-ification of comics. Like I don't need that. You don't have to do that all the time. Once in a blue moon, sure, fine, whatever. But like you can talk plainly. But that kind of stuff.
I don't think we'll ever see a Dark Knight manga. You know what I mean? Like not official, like not saying Batman, but like a comic that does like the Dark Knight, the impact that Dark Knight has had on.
It can't. It really can't though, because I mean, Daniel, I don't know if you agree with this, but being because I think you're much more plugged into that style and also the way they're presented. American comics are limited format. That's only like Dark Knight's like what 200 pages. That's only what 10 manga chapters, right?
right. Yeah, I mean, like in terms of length, you're not gonna out-length Japan, but I mean, what was the question again? I mean, it was like
the impact of like Dark Knight Returns or something along those lines. It's like those, or Watchmen. Like you'll never have a Japanese version of Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns or hell, Spawn. Look at Spawn. Spawned a multimedia empire. Comics, cartoons, toys, movies. Fan films.
Can I tell you, when
and
I
it's
was
amazing.
in Japan. Sorry, keep going.
I was gonna say it's amazing how like they we have so much stuff based off of such little content. Like mangas will go on forever, and they'll make their cartoons and stuff, but we'll just have like 4 issues, and they'll make a movie about it. We're very economical. Yeah,
you ain't kidding. Like, I mean, and nowadays, or people like Mark Miller when he was doing Kick-Ass, because after Wanted got made into a film, he's like, okay, I want to make more comics that go into movies. So he was working with Matthew Vaughn, you know, to make Kick-Ass. He's like kind of working on the comic and the movie at the same time, and the same thing with Kingsman. You know, working on the comic and stuff too. So
the Kick-Ass,
it's kind of weird how it works out.
Sorry, the end of Kick-Ass sucked. The rest was really good, but the ending was just what?
Well, the movie's still better than the comic. The comic is just I really hated the comic.
But no, when I was in Japan, something I've noticed that, especially One Piece is everywhere, and I do not mean that like I'm talking everywhere. We went to some temples over there, and they had One Piece inspired merchandise at these religious, culturally, you know, amazing places. You could buy a One Piece souvenir, a One Piece arrow, you know, those special lucky arrows with the tips cut off. You could One Piece was everywhere. It was everywhere. Tissues, probably condoms, probably everything. They slapped that shit on everything. Actually, I want to tell you about something. This is kind of a superhero anime series. I'm sorry, going anime. It's called Samurai Flamenco. I think that's how you say it. It's about a guy who wants to be like a superhero, and he's actually a male model, and he makes lots of money. He uses that money to become a superhero. And the series starts out innocently enough. He's trying to be a superhero. It starts out a little like Kick-Ass, where he puts the suit on, he gets his ass kicked. He has to learn. He makes friends with a cop. He also makes friends with a guy who makes stationery, who he remakes the stationery as weapons. So he's got like a thing that fires staples, so he staples the bad guys to the wall. As the series goes along, it gets to a certain point and it takes a massive right turn. Now, he's a bit like the Power Morphing Rangers, Mighty Morphing Power Rangers, where he wears a suit and he has gadgets and he fights. He thinks he fights bad guys. He ends up fighting actual Mighty Morphing Power Ranger type monsters. He even has a ship and everything. Now, the series started out like Kick-Ass, where the guy was just beating up local thugs and Yakuza. And then it just, like one episode, without any warning, went, boom. Oh, now he's fighting a gorilla who has a guillotine in its stomach and it's chopping off policemen's heads. Now he's fighting some huge brain guy. Now he's got a flying ship. Now it took a right turn without any reason whatsoever, with any setup at all. And I haven't yet finished it because I honestly think he just got a hit on the head and he's probably just imagining the rest or something. But it just turned the corner. Just like, nah, we're going to go for the full Saiyan Hunter or the Kamen Rider crap. It's hilarious. It's definitely worth a watch. It's on Netflix, actually. So if you guys want to see like just crazy, that's pretty crazy.
Yes, I canceled my Netflix, so I'd have to skip that.
I'm not going to advise anyone to download anything illegally. That is wrong, and you should always
don't steal. Don't steal. How would you like if it's like, yeah, would you download a car? Would you steal a car? It's like now I start selling my own product more often. I'm like, yeah, I don't want nobody to steal my shit. So don't steal.
Yeah. Money's nice, you know.
Yeah.
Food.
I don't want to like plug for Crunchyroll because I don't like Crunchyroll, but I'm sure Crunchyroll's got it on there, and I'm sure it's on DVD somewhere. But if you can't find it, I'm sure there's many alternatives you can find.
Dear God, a lot of libraries have a big manga and and also anime library, like the DVDs, Blu-rays, the manga volumes. I mean, I know people, they would go to libraries, do like library runs, like they just go over and just sit there and read stacks of manga because you read 300 pages, and that's another thing. Like people say, like, oh, manga sucks. It's like, oh, it's so small compared to American size. 300 pages for $9.95 compared to 20 pages of story for $5. Are you trying to tell me that there's more story in those 20 pages than 300, you're full of it. You're a liar.
$7 in Australia sometimes. $7.
Well, yeah, you the Viz, like the Viz manga, like those are usually about $7.99, $8, $6.99.
I'm talking about American comics.
Oh yeah, American comics. Oh yeah, because of the import tax and the cost, all that stuff, and
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I get my manga from Book Depository, and I pay about $10 to $11 per volume. So that's pretty cool. I don't know how that translates for you guys. It's about
that's actually not bad. That's $7. Not well. Okay. I was thinking you were saying the floppy comics, but if you're $10-11 for manga, yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah. So, but what was I going to say? I completely forgot.
Well, I think it's interesting how like the American comic industry is smaller than Japan. Meanwhile, we demand at least the companies demand that they print it on this glossy paper and they need all this fancy coloring. Japan, they print it black and white on, I guess, their version of newsprint, and
it sells millions of copies.
Yep.
Makes millions. Well, I don't know about makes. Mangaka are kind of. It's a weird thing with mangaka. They kind of get their asses kicked, and they get FUCK'd by the people who control the companies.
They get screwed easily, though. It's like, but here's the thing: it's been worse. Japan is bad, but it's worse for everywhere else. Like for the longest time, like I was watching a documentary. I've watched it before, but it's called Future Shocks: The Story of 2000 AD, and it's a really good documentary. And I was watching it, and for the longest time in the UK, they did not publish until like really the 70s. Like, so they had comics from 40s, 50s onwards, but they, for the longest time, did not publish when they did the comic, like who did the writing, who did the artwork, so that nobody could get headhunted, so that people wouldn't be, the comic would stay popular, but not the creators. They didn't want to, make, and same thing that's happened back in the day with Batman and Superman, all that stuff. You didn't see artwork, pencils, and inks, and they didn't credit people. Like it's Batman by Bob Kane. Bob Kane didn't have nothing to do with a lot of those issues. He just rode off the backs of Jerry Robinson and Bill Finger and countless others that just got shafted. And that's how the British comics were. American comic writers and also the British guys would do, like what the companies would do this. They'd have a check. Here's your check for doing the comic. But on the back, it has like a little thing. You had to sign, it saying, by signing this, I recognize I'm giving up all copyright claim to this character.
Mm.
And to get paid, you had to sign that. Where in Japan, you have Rumiko Takahashi and the rest of these people who, yes, get screwed, who can end up getting like just shafted, like usually on their first projects, but then eventually they become, these legends. They become, their name is spoken. They may speak no English at all, but people know of them in other lands. That kind of thing. So.
Well, Akira Toriyama quit his job to do Dragon Ball. Oh, to do manga. He quit his job. He had like a pretty good job, I think, and he just quit it to do manga. So it's interesting.
Yeah,
well, that guy talking about I talk about locking artists and all that in their rooms so they do their job. Akira Toriyama nearly had a freaking. I don't say he nearly died, but he got really, really sick while doing Dragon Ball Z, and that was recently. So they Rumiko Takahashi, she still draws. She doesn't have to. She's one of the richest people in Japan, richest mangaka in Japan. She doesn't have to, but she still does it. She still draws her comics. She's doing something else now. She still draws her comic. She still controls her business, and she's one of the richest women in Japan, and I don't know, 20th richest woman in the world. And it's interesting because they go on about how women are treated like nothing in comics in America, but they don't even talk about the manga industry, where women have to work as much, if not more, than men as to get where they need to get. And I think it should be like that. You should have to work your butt off to get into anything, really.
Yeah, it's just, you don't see that happen really with American comic book creators because the system's designed to keep people down, promote promote the corporations, promote the intellectual property, but they don't like
promote the writer. The writer is like close with like the editors and the corporate, and then like the artist now is just like I don't know where they are now. It's just
exactly. It's like you look at Bendis and when they were doing for when he had the suction over at Marvel, like he's creative consultant over at for the Daredevil Netflix show, and he was supposed to be creative. He was part of the consulting team when what was it? Perlmutter was in charge of the movie division, like him and the other Marvel writers. And then when that was taken away and it's Feige only, that's when he saw, because these people, they really don't care about, they care about comics to a degree, but they want to do movies and other stuff. I love the fact that I can do comics and make them, I can write them and draw them and letter them and ink them and color them and produce them all by myself. I don't need somebody to give me the permission to do comics. And that could be the same thing, like, which is funny. My Neon Trash comic, which is manga sized. It's the size of a standard manga volume, like the collected volume. And it's hilarious because there's bits in there, like there's speed lines. It's very heavily, it's a lot of manga influence to it. I'm not going to lie. But it's a kind of hybrid between the East and West. You know, sexy chick, but with American kind of like pacing and panel layouts at times. And then it switches over, like switches into high gear for the kind of the manga, layouts. I love that. And it works great. And it's, one of those things like I love doing it. But I just don't see the potential for these creators like to have the same lucrative, as like Rumiko Takahashi, which she just might be the exception, to have that kind of lucrative,
I think she was
windfall.
Smart, but she also, her comics, her manga is really, I love her manga, and you can see why it's so, because it's Shonen or boys comics, so it was mainly directed at boys, and she was one of the first women to do a Shonen comic like that, and it has naked. I mean, her first one, Lum Urasu Yadashura, I never say that properly, was about a high school teenager who was a lecher, or he loved women, and his whole basis of his character was to get, not into women's pants, but to get close to women and to grab them and stuff like that, as you expect from kind of manga, if you've read any manga with that kind of character trope in it. But it was kind of the reverse harem, because all the girls kind of hated him except Lum, who loved him, but it was a very painful, zappy love, where if he did anything like a wandering eye or wandering hand, she would just zap him with her electricity powers. And all the women around him kind of hated him, but needed him for a reason, or for some reason or another, or somehow he got himself into their life by circumstances. And I love it. She and her staff translates really well to the West, because it's kind of based on tropes, but it's hilarious, and the characters don't really evolve that much either, which is fine. Sometimes you don't have to have, characters don't need to really evolve all the time. And this was purely a comedy comic. They made lots of references to American comics, Japanese folklore, American folklore, American comics. And it was really good. I highly recommend it if you can get hold of it.
Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. And also Inuyasha.
Yeah, Inuyasha.
That's another one.
Yeah, they call that Dragon Ball Z for girls. Somebody called it Dragon Ball Z.
Hey, it's good though. It's good.
I read a lot of it, but I kind of stopped after a while. Ramahalf would always be my first love of her stuff. Ramahalf came in a point in my life where I was kind of like this going to sound all freaking edgy and stuff, but I was kind of in a bad place. And so it came to a point in my life that it really made me a lot happier and everything. And I started drawing around that same time too. So, and Ramahalf will always be my first love. And that's pretty wacky. And it's kind of the same thing. None of the characters really evolve. And it kind of works for it, because Rama, the main character, he's stubborn, headstrong, thinks he's the best at everything. And sometimes he does actually have, but sometimes he gets his butt kicked severely, and it's good because 1 minute he's kicking Ryoga's ass. The next minute, all these enemies beat the crap out of him, and nobody really likes him because he's such a cocky bastard. The closest I can get to like a character trope like that in American is probably Danny Phantom, because Danny Phantom has the same kind of cocksure, I'm the best at everything kind of attitude. Then he gets his butt kicked by the box ghost and a bunch of his friends. And then he has to kind of rethink what he's doing. And that's kind of like Rama, but Rama never really learns. And he just thinks he's the best all the time, to the point where he beats up his dad if his dad said something that he doesn't like. So, yeah.
Do you draw your own comics, hard copy?
Draw is such a strong word. No, I had a couple of web comics. I had Psycho Squirrels from Space, and I also had Collective Noun. Collective Noun was my penny arcade web comic, and it was also kind of my finding my style comic. And then I did Psycho Squirrels with Space, which was my kind of Invader Zim comic, and that was kind of terrible. And I admit that I'm not a very good artist. I draw the odd thing. My mate, who was supposed to come on the thread with us, but he got stuck in Jersey. He can't be here, but he's a really amazing artist, and he's got some stuff coming up. He did the poster for this stream, the Goku and Superman.
Oh, cool.
So he did that really quickly too. I did the lettering. I'm going to take the credit for the lettering, but he did all the background and the characters and all that, and he's an amazing artist. But I did some, and I even got my comic printed. But what I did was I set up a website called Experiment, which was, I got a bunch of local artists to do their own web comics, and I would host them. And then later we went to the comic convention here called Supernova, and I printed all their comics in like a volume, several volumes, so people could buy the volumes and follow on. And I took it out all of my own pocket because I didn't mind. I wanted to get other people out there and everything. It kind of collapsed after a few months, but I'm really happy that I did that. And it's something that I can say I did that. Also, they messed up the placing of our tables. We ended up they put us in our tables was right next to the stars from Twilight, or a little up from the stars from Twilight.
Oh no!
It's interesting. My mate did a comic called with a vampire that was turning to dust in the sun, and he says, "Oh, I don't twinkle." And a bunch of people got those postcards, because we made postcards out of them, and got the Twilight staff to sign them, or the stars to sign them.
Oh,
yeah. So if you ever, you probably never find them, but if you ever see them, that's my mate's claim to fame. I was just the guy who paid for the printing, but that's what I did. And I draw. I mean, I post. I don't know if you see my Twitter. I posted some really crappy, quick line drawings of Solid Snake. I haven't been drawing for a while. I know basics nowadays, and I'm not very good. I can't do backgrounds. I'm terrible at perspective. I have a crude understanding of anatomy. That's about it, really.
Well, that's not too bad, though. I mean, at least you try, because I mean that's the thing. It's like, you just keep at it, because that's the biggest thing. Like, just not giving up on that stuff.
Yeah, if I really because if I really put work into it, I guess I could get better. What's so good about my mate is that he is a good artist and he's a hard worker. So I've known a couple of people who are amazing artists, but they're lazy as crap. Like, they just sit on their ass, they don't do anything, but they can just draw anything. And if they really put their work into it, if they actually thought and did research and knew more than just the basics, they would become amazing artists. But then I've known people who aren't that good artists, but they put so much work into their, they try to concentrate, they try to, they learn the perspectives, they learn anatomy, they learn all this stuff, and they want to know how to draw, and they really love to draw, and they're not that good, but they do it out of sheer will power and hard work. My mate is a really good artist, and he works his butt off, and I rarely see that.
That's why people shouldn't steal. No stealing.
I actually just stole a car while we were talking about that. Is that right?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Larry has a whole heap of a certain type of porn in the back of his car. I'm telling you.
Stole the car, stole the porn.
No, what you found back there, probably far worse, is a bunch of ammo.
Used ammo.
Ammo, Larry's manifesto. Nah. It's just a shovel in a bucket of lye. Some plastic
Bucket
sheets.
of lies.
No lie. Like, to cover up the stench of a dead body. See, I know, American. We're gonna get you. If you want to be American, you got to get schooled on the with the necessities. Like, you might need it in case you hit a deer and on the side of the road, and you want to bury it. On the side of the road, I mean a long dirt path way out in the middle of nowhere. No one's around.
Joe Pesci is riding shotgun and
Joe Pesci with a knife, stabbing people.
Picture of his mom painted of two dogs, one facing one way, the one facing the other way.
Oh my god!
So you guys got any questions? Because I think I've run out.
Okay. If you had to, permanent switch, an American character, comic character, switching like going to go full Japan, a Japanese creator, it doesn't matter who the team. Same thing for vice versa, like American character created here, going to Japan permanently, and we get a character in return. Which characters would that be for both of you? There you go.
You start, Daniel. I'll have to have a think about this.
Yeah, it's tough. Let me think.
Hey, Kamen Rider I'd like to see Kamen Rider go over to America, see what they could do with him. That'd be pretty cool.
All right.
I wouldn't mind that. Yeah. Wouldn't mind that. I'm trying to think. This would be tough.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Kamen Rider works though. He's kind of a superhero anyway.
You said permanently leave?
Yes, permanent. That character, that character's American now, and that character will be Japanese now that was once American.
Maybe the Hulk. I'd like to see what they can do with the Hulk,
Yeah. Maybe he'll be Godzilla.
Yeah,
oh god.
Because I feel like they do weird stuff with him, have him have forms and
that's
weird
true.
Body horror stuff, and they still action.
Remember the Spider-Man Kamen Rider series?
Yes.
Yeah, Spider-Man. Actually, no, Spider-Man is what they've already done it, and Spider-Man looks pretty cool, and he even had a giant robot. Can the Hulk say that?
Nope.
Hulk and a giant robot. It's like Hulk need robot to be the strongest there is.
Kind of really, think about it.
Hulk fight,
Harry.
Yeah.
So you two gave yours, right?
Oh well, I give the Hulk can go to Japan, and I guess Japan can come here. Was that the other thing? Part of the
question? Basically it's like a kind of trade off. It's like a so Hulk gets Japan and we get Kamen Rider, I guess.
Well, that's
okay.
I guess we could take something that they're not using anymore, they're just not going to make it anymore. We'll take it, maybe Armistice 3, some. Well, that was never a name. Some of these things that they don't like that are defunct. We thought was
old.
It is old.
You
still remember
I got mine. The one I'd give up would be Batwoman, because I think Batwoman, the Japanese can make Batwoman work. Whatever, who cares? Batwoman, screw Batwoman. I don't care. Yeah. And who I get in return? Blackjack.
Oh,
Osamu Tezuka's, the mutant surgeon guy could fix anything. You know, like black market surgeon. Like hell yeah, like that guy would be
Good
like
idea.
and it'd work for DC or Marvel or just a solo book, just whatever. You know, like, well, if you're just trading DC characters, I could see Blackjack in the DC universe, like fixing people up, like Batman.
Actually.
Like he's actually the one who fixed Batman's spine after Nightfall, and he actually, when Lois Lane gave birth, like he's the guy that's actually there, like helping her give birth because the Kryptonian cells or some stuff, whatever. Kryptonian placenta was actually attacking her insides, and he had to cut it out by using a little bit of kryptonite scalpels and this, that, whatever. Like something interesting, like like really pretty cool. I'd love to see that though, because I mean, I'm a fan of that character. I'm a fan of that manga. That's a really cool manga. I picked up like this really big volume of it. It's like it felt like it was like 600 pages. I want to say it was big, like that big. I don't know if that was the case, but might be confusing with another one. But yeah, it was great. Love that series.
I think Larry's a closet weebu.
I think so.
I don't know, man. Goku.
After that, he's going to shoot some prairie dogs after this, just to show how manly he is. I'm no weebu. Bang.
Yeah.
Would you call me again? Was it weebu? Did you call me weebu? Say it again. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again one more time. What?
Weebu.
Now, are we gonna have a problem here?
He's gonna go shoot some freaking deer and eat it then and there. I don't know what you hunt.
Oh god!
Cock,
of course, I don't keep my 12 gauge loaded. I'm not that stupid. Keep my 40 cal loaded though.
Cock locked and watching anime.
Well, Larry, why aren't your pants on? It's not that kind of show. Oh god! But no, it's like they're good. There are some really good gems out there. Phoenix, Zamatazuka's Phoenix. I mean, and not to be confused with the X-Men character, but yeah, there's good stuff out there, and nobody, they need to seek it out. There's no excuse.
Phoenix. How do you spell that?
Yeah, it's I think it's called. I might be confusing it for a second. Who's called Phoenix?
Oh, here we go. Is it Phoenix? Is an unfinished manga by Osamu Tezuka. Is that the one you mean?
That's the one I mean. Yeah, it's like this really bizarre book. It's really trippy.
Okay.
If you look at some of the artwork and stuff.
I had Metropolis. I had Osamu Tezuka.
Oh, good choice.
I lent it to a friend. He dropped it in water and ruined it. He said he'd buy me a new one. He never did. I went to look for it so I could get it again because it's a really good book. Anyone got $200 I can borrow?
Ooh. Yeah. Oof. Sorry about that.
Yikes.
No. I've got most of his Astro Boys. And I have the Metropolis movie on DVD somewhere. It's a pretty good film. I like it.
Really underrated, like that Metropolis movie. It's on the theater too, that one.
Anyone watch the Kashern live action film?
Oh, that was regrettable. That was
quite special effects, but what the hell was the story?
There's no story.
I know, it's like an excuse for some guy to destroy a bunch of robots. God, I can't even remember it, but it still looks good, and I got all the like tin case one and all that. Shiny. Shiny things get me.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, man. There are books, especially like something like Metropolis, like you're saying, but yeah, there's like those. I remember this is back when the Akira volumes, the Dark Horse put out, like they were out of print for a while. And so finding them was a nightmare. So luckily Amazon had them secondary sellers and somebody had library copies. So like $4, but they had that, like the binding. So it's like they keep the covers like intact. It's very stiff. It was not pretty, but they're readable and that's all that mattered. And
you
God, I love that stuff.
Good work.
That's what I like. It's this readability, not this collectability stuff.
Collector's market is the worst thing to happen to both manga and American comics, because especially here in the States, I don't know how it is. I know there is a collector's market over in Japan, but nowhere near as much as it is here in the States, because it's like it's a mess.
Try collecting video games. Try buying. Don't even. I sold my entire Sega Saturn collection for $2,000 Australian, no, American.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had about 30 games, 2 Sega Saturns, a bunch of peripherals. $2,000. This one guy in America bought it all. So, yeah, I needed to. I'm moving. Actually, I'm moving in a couple of about a month or two. So, but yeah, didn't stop me collecting a couple more Super Nintendo games. It was a good thing they were cheap though. Love my SNES.
Yeah, there's a place here in not too far from my comic book store that they have old like NES, SNES. They have Atari. They have systems I'd never seen before. Like they're PlayStation, but they were with a screen built into it. And there was a GameCube with the screen, like a LCD screen built into it. Like it's like traveling GameCube or whatever. And I was going through some of the games they had and all this and that. And somebody had brought in some like Japanese games. And I was like, I ain't gonna bother looking at this because it's like I wouldn't be able to play it. The last Japanese game I tried to play was a Gundam game. I forgot, Crossfire or something it was called, but it was it was all Japanese. It took me a while to figure out the controls of the Gundam because I kept getting my ass kicked. But
what kind of game was it? It wasn't those turn-based ones, was it?
No, it was kind of like the old school Armored Core. Like you're piloting the Gundam, and you're fighting. You're piloting the mechs from the Gundam universe. I believe I was using the Zaku 2 at the time, and battling that, like hiding behind buildings till the building comes crushing down, and like building, kind of building a plan in my head. Okay, he's gonna move this way. I'm gonna go out that way. That kind of thing. But
there's a series of RTSs which actually combine a bunch of different giant robot animes. Gurren Lagann, Gundam, and a bunch of other ones, some more obscure ones like King Gainer and all that. And they have turn-based, and it's really cool. They have Evangelion too, and they do little animations, run up to the bad guy and shove that sword into the bad guy, and then like rip it out. And then they have cool little like iconic attacks, and it looks freaking cool. Check it out on, I forgot what they're called, but check it out on YouTube. And it's cool to see all the little because they're all mini style, chibi style, attacking each other. It's cool. They do all the kind of iconic attacks from the different mangas like Gundam, Laser Sword, and Giant Robo's in there. One of my favorite animes of all time. There's a attack them now, Giant Robo. Doom. So if you guys haven't seen that, see that. The dead silence. Everybody's going, what the hell is
I have not checked it out, so I wouldn't know.
Check it out. Like the style of animation, or the animation's amazing. The style of art is very kind of Gigantor. You guys heard of Gigantor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the old 50, but it's got that style, but the animation is amazing. The story is really, really, really good. It kind of surrounds this thing called the Shizuma Drive, a new energy source that they've created. And then there's Big Fire, which is the bad guys. And it combines giant robots, kung fu, superhero, or super powers. It's freaking brilliant. It's really good. I highly recommend that. I don't know if you can get on DVD, but I'm sure Crunchyroll probably has it. And
it's stuff like that. It's like I'm willing to give some stuff a shot, but mainly if it's only limited.
That's limited. That they were going to do another series, but then the animation company went out of business. But it did end. It did end properly. It just left. It said, "Oh, now this guy's because there's a big bad as a awake. What's going to happen?" But you don't have to worry about that because it does complete the Shizuma Drive story arc. I call it the Shizuma arc. But it's really good. I highly recommend it. It's full of action, storyline, introspection, awesome characters, awesome character designs. I do not understand why more people haven't watched it. It is so freaking good. So there's a big guy that's always drinking all the time. There's a little Taoist monk. Everybody's got a giant robot. All the bad guys have got giant robots, which is freaking cool.
But then the giant robots are no longer special because everybody has a giant robot. It's like communism. It's like communism of giant robots.
They're awesome giant robots. Well, the good guys only have one, and that's Big Robo. But the bad guys have theirs, and they're all a different types. But they don't show up all the time. When they meet a big bad guy, he attacks them like with kung fu, and then later it ends up robot fights and stuff. But it's really good. It's really, really well made. I don't know if you want to, like, the dubbing's that 90s anime dubbing where it's kind of cool but kind of cringy.
You get some rough.
Yeah,
you get some rough dubbing. Yeah, back then that's a problem. It's like for every like Goku Midnight Eye, the Urban Vision dub, the one with Steve Blum, fantastic. Yeah. But there was an earlier dub from earlier in the 90s, and not so fantastic. Not so fantastic at all. Pretty awful.
I love the original Akira English dub. Yeah, I know 4 people dubbed the entire movie, but you know what? It was the first anime movie I ever watched. It was the first dubbing I've ever listened to it, and it still hits me right where it matters whenever I watch it. And when they redubbed it, that terrible Madman redub, I was like, nah, I'll stick to my old dub. I'll stick to my VHS dub.
Yeah, the one I can't really take that one seriously because in my head all I hear is Liquid Snake and Donatello and Clark. And I'm like, I can't help it. It's like I love the dude, but I can't help not be here. It's like, but it's like, oh, say Johnny Young Bosch. Oh, he was in Power Rangers. Yeah, but he also voiced Bash and Trigun, so it balances out.
I didn't know that.
You know,
Spriggan was a really good dub. And so was Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop's one of the best.
Oh, that's the best dub ever. That's the best.
Ever. I cannot watch the Japanese version of that. The Japanese language version of that.
It's weird though. You watch it like after watching the dub version, you watch the voice actors, the Japanese voice actors, the American voice actors. They almost have like the same. It's weirdly like the same tone and flex, and they sound. It's like it's. I'm not saying it's exactly like it sounds like the the English person speaking Japanese, but it's that kind of, they got the spirit of the voice right. It isn't like where you watch some dubs and then you listen to the original Japanese language and you go from to like that kind of thing. It's you know, or you go from very deep voice to like very high pitched voice. It doesn't.
What do you think about the Dragon Ball? I mean, you have Goku. His original voice is voiced by some old grandma, right? Really? In Japan, his old lady, yeah.
Oh man.
Ninja Scroll's an interesting thing.
Meanwhile, here he sounds like a dude, bro. Like, oh my god, like.
Ninja Scroll's interesting. I watched the original English dub of Ninja Scroll. I think it's really good. It's kind of silly, but it's kind of that. But it's much better than probably Akira and all that. And I really like it. But then I watched the Japanese just for the hell of it. It seems a lot more laid back than the English, like a lot less urgent and a lot less kind of, you know what I mean? Like when you hear the Japanese one, it doesn't seem like they're just that threatening as much as the American one. That's what I felt anyway.
Well, even the American one, like the part where, dear God, when Jubei interrupts the rape, the first rape, not the second one that was prolonged and horrific, and as you know what, I enjoy it for its artistry. It's not my favorite. Bloodlust, Phantom Hunter 2 Bloodlust is a much better film. As much as I love Ninja Scroll for what it inspired.
I love Ninja Scroll, but all the people.
Yeah, but having her chained up and popping a couple of fingers in, and then of course they rape her because of the poisons. She eventually, by raping her, they kill. They die slowly of poisoning. Yeah, that's great, wonderful. It's sickening, man. It's Give me flowers in the brain. Give me that. Give me bodies in the cooler. I could deal with that. But this is like, because it's prolonged. It's like watching a movie, something like Irreversible or you know, The Accused. It's like, hey, let's break out a pinball table. Like, what is wrong with these people? But I think Bloodlust is a much better film. But yeah, the dubs, like, there's urgency to it, and at times, but it feels, you know, like very calculated, and it works, you know, character wise. Like, this guy doesn't give a shit. But yeah,
I like Ninja Scroll because it's just crazy. It's like I'd never seen anything in my life until I saw it.
I beg to differ, dude, because here's the thing: Bloodlust starts out. You have like, you know, when people talk about world building, organic world building. Oh, here's a picture. What's this? It's debris in space. Vampires went to space. They had a space empire that's crumbled. The scene with all the crosses.
I haven't seen Bloodlust in a while, and I didn't see that until way after Ninja Scroll. Again, you guys probably got it pretty close, but Australia.
Oh no! I didn't. Here's the thing, dude. Like, DVDs here, for the longest time, like even VHS, it was a pain in the ass. Like, you might be able to get one VHS.
Oh yeah.
And most of the time, it was maybe a VHS dub copy, like as in dub, like, you know, somebody copied the VHS to another, so it's already going to not look that great if you're lucky to get that. And those things, like, I mean, you're lucky to, you know, you're lucky to get what you get. And so it took me forever to get around. It was like early 2000s when I finally got around to watching Ninja Scroll. Oh, sorry, not Ninja Scroll. Bloodlust. And it was like, because Ninja Scroll, HBO had a Cinemax. They had, it was like anime month. It was like June of like 2000 or something, 99 or 2000. It was 99. But they showed Ninja Scroll. They showed Vampire Hunter D, the original. They showed Goku Midnight Eye, Wicked City, and what was the other one?
The Cyber City? Did they show all the...
No. They showed Wicked City. They showed Goku Midnight Eye. They showed Ninja Scroll. So that's 3 Kawajiri films. They showed, you know, Vampire Hunter D, and what else they showed? Damn. Oh, Golgo 13 Queen B. Yeah, that one's like, so it's like we get like 3 movies with like brutal rape in it. Demon rape, Monster Man rape, politician that's not quite Bill Clinton rape. Yeah, so it's oh, forgot vampire rape from Vampire Hunter D against the chick.
Who was that? The original one, or is that?
Yeah, you remember where it's like, well, about to happen. So it's like attempted vampire rape. Yeah, there you go. So 3 out of 5. But that's stuff like, because I've known women that been raped, so it's kind of it's like and because it's, you know, it's horrifying to just talk to someone, you're having a conversation, and out of the blue, it's like, what's wrong? And it's like, you know, like one of them ran into the guy that did it. It's like, dear God, it's like, you know, and it's like, because the guy, he did his time according to the legal system, he has done his time. But right. It's like, I'm like, well, what can I do? So it's like stuff like that. It's like, you know, and if you like the person, especially if I don't know the person that well, that happens. I mean, it sucks, and it still sucks, but it doesn't have the impact if I know the person and like the person. Like, oh shit! So it's dark. Yeah, man. Well, see, this is what happens. You talk too long. You talk to me too long, and I turn sour. I'm like the Micmac burial ground from Pet Cemetery. The earth's gone sour. It's better. Dead is better.
Well, anime is very dark. I mean, it's that shit.
Actually,
and manga too.
The one manga I want to get hold of, and I can't anymore. It's called Monster, and it's about a guy who saves a kid when he was really young, from dying. But while dealing with the kid, he realized that the kid is a sociopath or a psychopath, and the doctor's got a question about him. Does he let the kid die because he knows what he'll grow up to be, or does he let him live? And he lets him live. And we see through it what happened. The kid becomes a killer, and what the doctor tries to do to stop him from being a killer. And I cannot get hold of it. And I really want to read it because it sounds like something I love to read. So yeah,
that kind of thing I'd be interested in maybe checking it out, but I don't know. Like movies like The Good Son just bum me out. That kind of reminds. That sounds like The Good Son a little bit. You know,
Macaulay.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood. Yeah.
Well, the kid grows up. The kid grows up and becomes a man. So
the good man.
Yeah.
So it's like Macaulay Macaulay Culkin.
You know, Macaulay Culkin was supposed to play the. He was supposed to be the Elijah Wood character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but his father was like, he wanted him to go dark on this one. He was like, no, I want him to play the bad kid or something. He thought it'd be like edgy. And I don't think it was, yeah.
I think he could have done it. Either, but well, I mean, he could have done both, you know. But,
yeah.
They're both.
But the studio was like, look, it would make more money if he was the good guy, because like Macaulay is a good guy, but his father was some control freak, and they don't talk to each other anymore.
I don't blame him.
Really?
Bad career moves.
That doesn't sound like something that would happen in Hollywood at all.
Yeah.
Did you know the guy, remember Michael Jackson, he was accused of being like, child molester and all that stuff. He's like, raping children or whatever. And that the first accuser back in the 90s, like the first one, and see, people don't realize, like, oh, he settled out of court, so that means he's guilty. He was in the middle of a world tour where it's almost $1 billion worth of like money tied up. Like if you canceled, you have to pay this, because like you cancel one, you're gonna have to cancel like one show, and like, it'll kind of roll downhill for the trial. And you know how lawyers drag stuff out. So Michael Jackson had a choice: either pay up or basically go broke and have like $1 billion, like lose $1 billion. So he paid up, and the kid's father was what they call the dentist, allegedly the dentist to the star. So if you had a toothache, he could prescribe you certain pills, allegedly. And the guy has one credit to his name. He's the guy that wrote Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah. So it's like this guy basically allegedly, I think he's dead now, but he allegedly pimped his kid out, allegedly lied, allegedly to become become a alleged star effer.
They did Michael Jackson wrong. I read some article where it was just a huge setup.
Sony, yeah, because he was going to own more of Sony than like because all the money he was making and the royalties wise. I mean, he owned Elvis library, he owned his library, he owned the Beatles library. He owned so much, and he was like getting more and more and more, and it was just Sony's like, we can't have this. We can't have somebody have this much control.
Yeah, they did him wrong. That's like that was the worst thing to happen. Was to Michael Jackson.
He had the Beatles catalog too, right? I mean,
he bought the Beatles catalog because McCartney's like, I'm gonna buy that, and it's like Michael Jackson's like, and it's like, because I guess you get beat by with electrical cord, you get wise. Joe Jackson's your dad. You don't mess around. You strike first. You strike hard. No mercy. Oh God.
Hey, Japan like Michael Jackson, man. They liked him.
Yeah, they went bad on Michael Jackson. They always do that. What is with the freaking press? What's with that kind of crap? I keep seeing it happen. Good people being brought down by these horrible freaking.
Though when somebody like James Gunn, screw him. But it's I'm like, I feel no sympathy for him. And the thing about this, like, people are like, well, you don't stand up for him. You're like, here's the thing: these people get what they want. We're dealing with a monolithic thing, and it's like, there's nothing you can do to stop it. The people's voices, whatever, and it's like, it doesn't matter. Like your problem is thinking your voice matters. It's like, it really is. That's the case. I mean, it's like, people going after James Gunn, but then complaining about Alex Jones. How dare it's like, here's the thing. Are you complaining about Alex Jones or James Gunn? The only reason James Gunn did that before he got hired for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
before all this, Disney didn't care.
Yes,
they just hired him, and it's like they helped him bury that stuff, and then it came out, and they're like, we're gonna lose money, and like for all he made us money. He did not make us money. He was just tool. He was a puppet. He was a meat puppet for them. They needed somebody to run the cameras. Oh, James Gunn's an amazing director. No, he's not. Look at that crap. The CG, it's mostly CG. That means the people like whoever did the special effects, they're more of the they're more of a director nowadays anyway. Oh, the Russos, they made great movies. No, they just film a lot of stuff and the editors put it together. That's what they did on TV. That's what they do here. You know,
what they do over there is they kind of get one guy to kind of get the ball rolling, and then after that they kind of get other people to approximate. Like with Joss Whedon, like he basically did his Buffy thing, or like his Firefly thing with the dialogue and the interactions between the characters, and he helped like write some of the tail end stuff at the other movies with Iron Man popping at the end, and so they kind of got the ball rolling. And then once they're like, okay, we got your style, okay, now we get some other guys to do it. So I guess that's what they'll do with James Gunn. You know,
that's probably why Edgar Wright left because of that from Ant-Man.
Well, yeah, he was. Well, the thing, Ant-Man was supposed to come out before, like Avengers. It's supposed to be out around like It's supposed to be like Iron Man, Ant-Man, and then like Hulk and other things. And it just kept on getting pushed back because he was working on his movies, and it just got because I guess trying to get the Cornetto trilogy done, and and also I was after what is it, The World's End. After that, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm done with Edgar Wright movies. And then he's like, oh, we're doing Baby Driver. I'm like, I have zero interest in this.
I really like Baby Driver. I know everybody hates it, but I really like it.
I don't. I was like, I just have no interest. It's not like hatred. It's just apathy. It's like guys listening to music and driving his car.
Yeah.
Oh, he meets a waitress. It's like, it kind of sounds like a very hippie modern version of like, modern, but like a more actiony version of like Drive, where Drive had a lot of style and like people said it didn't have much substance. I loved it. I love Drive because
I love Drive too.
You modern movies, you get off my lawn.
But
I'm a Drive guy. I saw Baby Driver, and it seemed like that was the movie that was like the mainstream version of Drive. Like the music wasn't, this synth 80s thing. It was like 1970s hits that everybody knows and everybody can dance to. And like, I don't know, man. People loved it though, but
it didn't have the brutality that Drive did. The brutality, like I know, like what Kevin Spacey plays, like, oh, he's a mob boss with a heart, though. Like, yeah, we know that. Yeah, sure, that's a stretch.
He has heart. Yeah, I agree with that. All of a sudden, Kevin Spacey's about turn at the end was just really didn't work. It felt really uncharacteristic of his character. They just all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to help you. Why? The guy literally destroyed your business. Why would you help him?
For love, because he believes in love. See, I know I've not watched the movie, but I know about it, and that's why I'm so apathetic about it. And it's like Drive. You have Albert Brooks, and Albert Brooks is like, you think, oh well, he's got the crazy Ron Perlman. He's just like this angry rage monster in Drive, and then you got Albert Brooks, and you think, oh, he's going to be the guy that's going to like, hey, I'm going to catch hell for this, but I'm going to keep you from getting hurt and all that. And then he goes up and grabs Bryan Cranston's arm and just like slices it from like the crook of the arm all the way down to the palm. So just relax. They're gonna bleed out. I'm like, oh my
god. Okay, back to the subject. Crossover. Actual physical, realistic crossover. A crossover. I don't want to see Goku Superman because it's been done to death. What crossover would you like to see between manga and comics? And don't say Superman and Goku because it's been done to death, as you can see from the poster that me and my mate created. What would be a realistic, and back it up? I want backup, people. Back it up with, I don't know, facts, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'd have to say off the top of my head, this would be I know because he's a big fan. I want to see Video Girl I make a return, and the crossover would be with Nightwing because the Katsura is a big fan of Batman, and I could see like a love triangle between Nightwing I and the dude, I forgot his name from Video World I, but yeah, it's like a love triangle. It's like Nightwing discovers like the tape in the cave, like a part of like Bruce's like there's like a love triangle kind of thing or whatever. It's like that kind of deal. But yeah, I'd love to see that. So it's like action but with romance too.
Okay. It's like yeah, but you can't beat Nightwing. Everybody falls in love with Nightwing.
Yeah, everybody loves Dick.
Dick, don't leave me. I need.
You need Dick. Dick, where are you? I need you with me now.
It feels like George Perez was having a joke on everyone there. What are you doing? Okay, Daniel, your go.
Let's see. They can go to how about assassin versus assassin, or gunsmith versus gunsmith. We could do Revy from Black Lagoon versus Elektra.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice choice.
Nice. Yeah, I can see the art like that. You get onto that, Daniel.
Yeah, well, like Elektra's all business, while Revy's crazy, has like so it could be like kind of like a Joker Batman kind of dynamic where it's like you can't see Revy's moves, even though she's probably not like as trained at killing as Elektra, but it could be like a different psychologically.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, how am I gonna top that? That's pretty good. Shivers. Have you heard of Eat Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, he eats things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. I like to see him hanging out with the Legion, especially that kid that can eat everything. Imagine that.
Oh, Matter Eater Lad.
Yeah, Matter Eater Lad. Just sitting out trying to eat everything. And they're just trying to outdo on each other on what they can eat and what they can't eat. That would be pretty cool. I could see that. If not that, maybe Kamen Rider and the Avengers. That'd be pretty cool. See all the Kamen Rider hanging out with the Avengers. But you guys outdid me, so that's the best I can come up with.
No, Kamen Riders should hang out with the Defenders, like the old school Defenders, like Doctor Strange, Hulk, Valkyrie, Nighthawk.
Doctor Strange and Blackjack. That'd be pretty interesting.
I think my idea is like Doctor, he's Blackjack's taking care of the body while there's like possessed spirit or something inside that Doctor Strange has got to go fight on the astral plane or something. So like he's fighting for the body, and Doctor Strange's fighting for the spirit. That could work.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
I've never seen that done before, but it's like, do you have the best surgeon in the world? You got to do right by him, and then you find out like Blackjack is the one who worked on Wolverine. They gave him the adamantium skeleton. Yeah. He's not the one who came up with the idea. They just hired him for the gig.
You just insert him everywhere. Like,
yeah.
Who helped the Hulk or whatever? Or who was the first surgeon to work on Doctor Strange's hands?
No, he got it done right. Maybe the fact that that would be a problem. Like Doctor Strange's hands should have been like Blackjack could fix them. He's not a bring the dead back to life, but he can work miracles. Like he's the best at what he does. He's like Wolverine, except for healing and not killing.
What about like bad guys? That'd be interesting. Daniel?
Let's see. Bad guys versus bad guy?
Yeah, like I don't know, maybe they work together, some bad guys working together from both sides.
Ooh. Let's see. Oh, that's tough.
Yes, I'm trying to think of one too. Because this thing is like mostly these. There's no. I mean,
there's not bad guys as iconic in a manga as they are in anime.
Yeah, or definitely American comics. I mean, I can name, God Almighty, so many. I mean, let's see. I'll see if I can go. Okay, let's say if I can get a manga villain, I can give you American. I'm trying to think of a good one, and let's go with. Okay, let's go with Piccolo from Dragon Ball. Let's see, Evil Piccolo. Evil Piccolo and you mean versus or team up?
Team up.
They team up.
Team up. Oh,
okay. So we got Evil Piccolo from the original Dragon Ball, and then you have him team up with because of the I'd say because of the aspect, it's going to sound weird, but the Floronic Man, which is a DC character who's basically like an evil version of Swamp Thing. And because both of them can regrow limbs because of their power sets, so like you try to beat them up, they just grow things back. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I was thinking, crap. Oh, I just had it in my head a minute ago. I'll have to think. You got anyone, Daniel? I keep throwing Daniel into he's like human shield.
It's tough. I'm trying to think of maybe something to do with Light Yagami from Death Note. Except he was pretty smart himself, though, so maybe he wouldn't need anybody else. But he'd probably need somebody, I guess. To cover his tracks more.
Lex Luthor.
Yeah, like somebody like that, so with like a bankroll,
He's not. I was gonna say Miles Edgeworth. He's not really a bad guy, but he's the antagonist. But he's from a video game. I would say he'd be like the one who would defend Lex Luthor in court. He was nowhere near that kryptonite. But he's like a video game character. So yeah, it is tough. There isn't very many iconic villains from manga.
Yeah,
stuff like that. It's
Atlas from Astro Boy. He could team up with Lex Luthor. You worm, Lex Luthor. I'll only work with you because I want to defeat Astro. That's the thing that stands out me the most with Astro Boy is the music.
Well, maybe Gigantor. That's a hero, but Gigantor and no, he wasn't a comic. Yeah, he was a comic, right? Gigantor was a comic, right? The manga. Let's see, Gigantor manga. Because I think the cartoon came out, the anime came out like the 50s. So there's Tetsujin 28, a manga. Yeah, Mitsu Toro Yokoyama. Yeah. Okay, 1956. So yeah, I'd say I definitely say Gigantor teaming up with Iron Man. There you go, because Tetsujin means Iron Man. So there you go, or something like that. So yeah, Iron Man and Tetsujin, Gigantor. It's like fighting crime, fighting the forces of AIM. MODOK, something like that.
Fighting Whiplash.
Fighting Whiplash. Where's my bird? Hey, my bird. Oh, God.
Oh, no, he hasn't got his bird.
Well, I hate to say, we probably need to wrap up shortly because I'm getting kind of...
It's getting late.
Yeah, it's almost midnight here, and I'm also getting kind of hoarse because I ran out of drink a while back. I went through 2 bottles of water.
Thank you for joining us, Daniel and Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'll probably have another live stream in 2 weeks because next week I've got to do some cleanup because of the move. I want to do a live stream about something. I've forgotten what it is, but I'll get to you. I'll tell you guys when we get there. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about a special guest. He got stuck in traffic in Jersey. Yeah, so he's coming back from Marilyn Manson concert or something.
Okay. Because I was like, I was just thinking of Jersey. You mean the Isle of Jersey in Europe in the English Channel?
New Jersey.
Joyzy. Yeah, they hate that. I love it. I hate. But then people say North Kakalaki, and I want to smack them. So it's like, oh, you're from North Kakalaki. Shut your mouth,
sir. We're gonna have to have guns drawn at dawn if you keep on with that attitude.
Pretty much, man.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna have some KFC and shoot my guns wildly into the air.
I eat Southern style chicken and barbecue. It is a chicken tenders. They have nice chicken tenders. It's breast meat with individually breaded, no bone. Oh, it's delicious. Honey mustard dipping sauce. Oh, to die for.
You had me at chicken sour. Do you like my old Southern gentleman?
I shall retire for the evening. I am getting the vapors.
Oh no!
Oh Lord.
Okay, I'll let you guys go.
All right, thank you again, and
sir.
see you around next time. Okay. Take it easy.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Thank you for all of joining. 2 people who joined us. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Daniel.